to 11 a Eastern Time.
Stand
Your
by.
home for all.
Welcome into a Thursday edition of Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios. We are powered by our friends at Modelo. He is Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Producer Will in the house for the second day in a row. We've got Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. Helped me out this morning with a major assist that we'll get to later. On a Three Things Thursday, we've got like 17 things. But what's new?
17 things. There should only really be one thing on today. Today is the draft day. I mean, come on. We've been waiting all offseason for this. It's the biggest moment for the NFL, and it's the moment in which college football and the NFL kind of coalesce. All these players we've been watching, and we have our own assessments of how they played in college, and then the NFL has their own assessments. Some guys we think are way overblown. Some guys we don't think are getting enough hype. And, I mean, look, we've had a lot of discussions. We've done the From Saturdays to Sundays series, James, and we've talked a ton about these guys, and so now it's time to hear their names called.
Today is the day. You were telling me like 10 minutes ago that the Chiefs are one of the teams that are rumored to maybe be interested in trading up in the draft.
And look, I mean, the main storyline here in this draft, as we've discussed, is the fact that, like, certainly there's elite talent in the top of this draft, but just the variance in draft boards across the league, just because it's hard to, like, you'll even see it in mock drafts and different analysts' evaluations of these players. It runs the gamut across the board. So I think because of that, there could be a lot of movement today. There's also been talk that, could Tre'Davious Stukes sneak into the first round? There's been a lot of hype around him. I saw some rumors about Jordan Tyson getting into the top 10 now. Caleb Williams tweeted out Jordan Tyson highlights last night. A lot going on.
I just pulled Daniel Jeremiah's latest mock draft. He did it like 8 hours ago, which was in the middle of the night. He has Jordan Tyson going number 7 overall, and he has six Big 12 players taken in the first round, with Stukes jumping into the first round at pick 30.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it felt like at first that Stukes might be an extremely underrated player, and he's gone on a ton of these 30 visits, like, consecutively. He was flying across the country, apparently, in meetings with different teams. And, yeah, I mean, like, I think there's no question he'll be somewhere between 30 and 40. So it's obviously huge for him if he goes 30, 31, 32, and not day 2 early, but he will go somewhere between 30 and 40. And then, it's interesting, too. I've heard a lot of hype around the former Oklahoma State Cowboy wide receiver, Dejon Stribling, who had a big year last year for Ole Miss. He's really skyrocketing up draft boards right now.
We are 3.5 minutes into this show, and producer Will's already got the whiteboard telling me to play clip 9. This guy's all over it. All right, Adam Schefter, here's what he said about the Giants and their potential interest in Jordan Tyson.
Well, there's a lot to get to here, Greeny, and the New York Giants had 2 building block picks. These are rare picks for John Harbaugh to have, and he's going to be looking for players to set their culture. Now, a lot of people believe the Giants have a high level of interest in the Arizona State wide receiver, Jordan Tyson. They were at his private workout on Friday in Arizona. The question would be, if they don't take him at 5, will he be there at 10?
If they don't take him at pick 5, will he be there at 10? Like, Jordan Tyson has very much entered the top 10 chat.
I mean, we've watched Jordan Tyson the last 2 years, and the only thing holding him back would be injury history, and it feels like there are teams that figured out that, like, they can't be the ones to miss on him. He's the best wide receiver in this draft. I think the only thing holding him back, again, is the injury history. I think he's better than Carnell Tate.
Dang, better than Tate.
Yeah. He's the best wide receiver in this draft.
Well, and I would say, like, the injury stuff, I think he's cleared all that up. Teams wouldn't be considering taking him as high as they are if those questions weren't answered.
Well, I don't know what there would be to clear up. Like, he's healthy now.
Right.
The problem is, the last 2 seasons, he hasn't been healthy. And so the idea of, well, is this somebody that is hurt a lot? Is he going to be hurt a lot, right? You can't have – the best ability is availability. The best players are the ones that play every game and are able to play. There's obviously some luck or lack thereof when it comes to injuries. But again, like I think if injuries weren't a thing, if all things being equal, like he would be the number 1 receiver off the board.
Yeah. It is a Big 12 Draft Day edition here on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Where will the Stars land? Coming up here in about 10 minutes, I've got some over-unders that I'm going to pepper your way that I think you'll like. And then we have Chris Level, the Texas Tech radio network and host of Locked On Red Raiders, to go over everything happening in Lubbock.
And, James, I mean, I would say in terms of like the biggest subplot from a Big 12 lens, this is going to be a historic day and weekend for Texas Tech football. And, can't wait to hear what Chris Level has to say about that and the fact that they're, despite, having 8 players drafted, maybe 9, that they're still picked to win the Big 12 this year and go undefeated, as you mentioned, have the best odds to be undefeated in college football this upcoming season. So
it's insane.
It's just incredible to think this is what Ohio State and Georgia, the biggest brands in college football do. They have 8, 9, 10. I mean, Ohio State could break the record this year. Georgia's record of 15 players drafted, Ohio State could very well break it. But it's like Ohio State will be number 1 preseason again next year. Same thing, right? Like they just turn over rosters, they get guys drafted, and then the next year they're back to it.
Dude, you're all over it. So the record is 15 players?
Yeah.
I was just thinking in my brain, I should find out what the record is for most players taken. I wonder what it is for a Big 12 school. Like even Texas and Oklahoma in their prime, they weren't sniffing like 15 guys getting drafted. And I'll do more research on that. But I would assume that Texas Tech having 7 or 8 guys getting drafted would be towards the top of the Big 12 all time.
Yeah.
And it's basically year 1 of this Texas Tech rebirth of the program.
I would think Texas may have had double-digit players selected following the 2006-05 Rose Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that comes to mind off the top of my head. I'm sure Oklahoma too. So, I mean, you could probably go back and find some drafts that had double-digit numbers for Oklahoma and Texas, but they're not in the Big 12 anymore, so who cares?
Right, exactly.
Screw them.
Right. And BYU, shockingly, BYU's in a little bit of a draft drought. That will end this weekend. So producer Will's in the house, and I was listening. Will's, look, he's already texting us. This guy's all over it. I have one text this morning. It's producer Will. Will Connerly on this 3 Things Thursday. So let's put Will in the hot seat. I was just listening to a podcast this morning, and it was like these major tech companies, these large companies, and then also like to be a Navy SEAL, basically. The number 1 interview question that they ask, Will, are you ready?
I'm ready.
How many gallons of water would a family of 4 use over a 48-hour period?
So what's important about this question, and I've got another question for you too,
Okay.
kind of along these same lines. Not necessarily what the answer is, but how you come to the answer.
This guy's smart.
I'd say
That's
8.
it.
8 gallons.
Okay, so you're just popping out a number.
Okay, but that's wrong. Your answer is wrong. And not numerically. You've got to think through how you're getting to that number.
Right. So the dishwasher.
Yep, they want to see how
shower.
They want to see how you react real quick. They want to see how you react to the question, which, no offense, Will, you failed miserably right off the top.
No,
Okay?
none taken.
As a lot of guys do. They freeze up or they say, well, I don't know. I've never worked for a sewer or water company. Like, I couldn't tell you that. They want to see in your brain how you're going to respond. So let's hear it.
So you want me to go through
Yes.
my thinking. So I'd go 8 gallons, 48 hours, 2 days, family of 4, assuming a mother, a father, and a couple kids.
Okay.
So they are all going to try to drink around a gallon, but they're not. The kids aren't going to get there. So through the first 2 days, I say the kids go half gallon. That's 2, and then they're going to run the dishwasher once. They're going to flush the toilet a couple times. That's a half gallon, unless they go outside and want to save a half gallon of water. So I think my 8 might be a little bit shy of the number because you think about washing the dishes and you don't know how often they're going to go out, if they're going to water the yard or anything. But I'd say 8 to 10 range would be pretty solid for a family of 4. What's the correct answer?
There is no correct
No,
answer.
it's just to see how you come to the answer. Here's another one. How many gas stations should there be in your town?
Doesn't it depend on the size of the town?
How many gas stations should there be in your town? There is no right answer. But first,
Once again, it's how you come up with the answer.
you start with the population. You start with how many.
Okay, I live in Dallas, right? So in this case, you should be thinking about the city that since the question was in your town,
Yep.
it's I live in Dallas. So now think through that, right? What's the population of Dallas? What's the square footage of Dallas? I couldn't even begin to fathom what that would be. I'd rather live in Topeka. It'd probably be a lot easier.
I was
going to
say, I don't think I could tell you how many people live in Dallas. And then it's like, is it actually Dallas? Is it Richardson?
Right.
Is it
No,
Irving?
for sure.
Is it the Metroplex? But the thought process is what you're looking for. And Will, once you got past the initial shock of the question, I thought that was a master class in how to break that down. Flushing the toilet? I never would have thought of that. I'm thinking taking a shower, dishwasher, yes. Watering the yard, sure. But, yeah, really nicely done. How many ounces of water the kids would drink. Really good stuff. All right, it's a Three Things Thursday. Our Big 12 over-under segment's coming up here in a minute before Chris Level. So, Ari Timken, I throw it to you. What is your number one thing on this Three Things Thursday?
Well, aside from the draft, and I am a draft head, so I am very excited for tonight. But speaking of gas stations, I caught this on social yesterday on X via a very good social handle, Dallas, Texas TV. If you live in the Dallas area, they're great. So they've got basically at the HEB in Forney, Texas, which is where T-Chains lives, Forney, Texas.
Tummy ache Taman.
He's got a video of the HEB in Forney with gas at $1.84. So as you can imagine, that is significantly lower than most places. I got gas this morning; it was like $3.29. Some places in Chicago, it's over $4 or $5. Okay, $1.84 is like 1978.
Yes.
So, I mean, as you'd expect, there is a ridiculously long line for gas at HEB and 40 for $1.84. My question to you, given the savings, how long would you be willing to wait for gas at $1.84 a gallon?
0 minutes. Not even 30 seconds.
Not even 5 minutes.
Love the savings. If I drive by a gas station and there's not a pump to be found, I'll just keep going.
So you won't wait at all?
Nobody got time
now
for
look,
that.
at any gas station, I get it. But what about a gas station that has gas at $1.84?
No, it's not worth it to me.
0.
It's not worth it to me. It's one fill-up. My car has a 16-gallon tank.
Yeah.
I'm saving $30 or $40, which, yes, that's great. But is it worth just the mental load of waiting and then knowing that people are behind you and they're waiting and you can't go into the gas station? That's like forbidden when there's a line.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that come into play.
Well, and I guess your anxiety clearly is overwhelming you in
Number
this decision.
one, yeah.
And I could sense that and see that as well, because like there's also then like whether it be a fight if there's like two lines converging and. But
How
I
many
mean,
traffic accidents have there been?
these people are waiting hours for gas.
That's
to
insane.
save some money. Granted, it's pretty much an eye-popping number, but that's. I have a higher threshold than you, which I thought wouldn't be the case. I'd probably wait 20 minutes.
Wow.
Did you see, though, the Forney Police Department? They put out a statement about how the lines were so long it made everything unsafe yesterday because they only dropped it for the day yesterday to 184, and they put out a statement on Facebook. I shared it with y'all that they said just avoid coming to this area. We've had too many traffic issues, and they shut everything down around that area. So I don't know the number of accidents, but it seemed like it probably got bad if the Forney Police Department had to put out a statement.
Yeah, so my gas...
Well, I'm sure it was causing a lot of traffic outside of the HEB because people are trying to get in, and that's causing traffic. 40's not it's not exactly a metropolis.
Right.
They're not really used to handling that kind of traffic.
Totally. So I've never had the patience to worry about gas prices. We all need gas to get from point A to point B. So sure, I love it when gas prices are down compared to when they're sky high, but it's not something I think about. My gas savings is when I bought a vehicle that gets above average gas mileage. Gas mileage has always been like the number one thing that I look at when I'm looking at buying a vehicle, because I know over time that's where I save money compared to these giant V8 SUVs that are out there.
Yeah, that was the funniest, seeing some of those. Mine's not a V8, but thank you. And I get great gas mileage, so plus my car is way cooler than yours.
It is. It's a Volkswagen. Volkswagens are phenomenal.
And gas mileage is cool. It's but it's for me, it's the cool factor.
Yeah. Well, you're cool. I don't know. It's a sports sedan. Do you not remember the guy that wanted to see inside of it at the Oklahoma gas station in Perry, Oklahoma? He thought it was that cool. He may have been planning to murder me, but that's besides the point.
I mean, look, I would say probably try to steal your car.
See, he liked
more
it
than
that
murder you?
much. He liked it that much.
Yeah,
He was willing to steal
it's
it.
a likable car for sure.
All right, let's play the Jaden Craig audio. That would be my thing. This is TCU's quarterback, Jaden Craig, and why he chose TCU over a lot of interest.
Before we got rolling, you were talking about that you and Cooper Barcade are very good friends, and Cooper was your top receiver your junior year. He goes to Duke, and then now he's going to be at Miami this year. Have you talked to him about making the jump from Ivy to Power 5?
Yeah, I mean, obviously when he got there, we were all curious about, what he thought the big difference was, and if it was really that big of a jump as they say, and I think the consensus was it's really not as big of a jump as people think. The Ivy League is definitely high-level football. It's just, I think more of those, elite players are, it's just kind of everybody at these schools versus, a couple at the Ivy League per team.
When you were going through your transfer portal experience, how much did you lean on him? And since he was changing schools at the same time, was there any hope or thought that you could end up at the same place again?
I don't think there was really any thoughts of landing at the same spot. I think there was a brief moment, when his quarterback made the decision to leave the portal, but it was too late at that point, and I had to let him know, chill out. Like, I'm not leaving TCU. I just got here and I'm signed. So
the more that we hear from Jaden Craig, the more I think this kid's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the Big 12 this season. He finished in the top 10 of Mel Kiper's quarterback rankings for this NFL draft that starts tonight, which means he would have been probably a 3rd or 4th round pick in the NFL. He's incredibly smart, a long lineage of family members that hold master's degrees and PhDs from Harvard. The guy threw over 700 passes last year, 1.68 interception rate.
Would love to hear how he'd answer the question. Maybe we have to save this for when we ask him at Big 12 Media Days. How many gas stations should there be in your town, Jaden? Jaden, how much water should a family of 4 have for a week? What was that? Is that the question?
Yeah, it was how many gallons of water does a family of 4 use over a 48-hour period?
Got it, yeah. But I thought what's interesting is that that interview he did with On 3 with Andy and Ari, Andy Staples, Ari Wasserman, was great. And so Andy Staples asks him about his former Harvard teammate, the wide receiver Cooper Barcade, who 2 years ago had 1,000 yards receiving at Harvard for Jaden Craig, and then last year went to Duke, had 1,100 yards receiving, 7 touchdowns. He's going to Miami this year. And Ari Wasserman basically just asking him about, like, yeah, did you ever think about teaming up with him? And he said, like, no, from the start, like, we kind of went our separate ways. But then there was some interest. I mean, he basically spilled the beans that, like, yeah, there was potentially some interest, at least from his end, when Miami's quarterback left, but I was TCU all the way. Which says a lot.
And Miami went on to sign Darian Mensah. So, like, Miami, they had the money to spend, and I think that's a great point, because if they go after Craig probably gets a better financial deal at Miami compared to what TCU is paying.
I'd say that's affirmative.
But, like, I think this is just it's a great example of fit, because this offensive coordinator that TCU has brought in, his quarterbacks do not throw interceptions. Like, they do not turn the ball over. Joe Fignano last year at UConn led the country in interception rate at the FBS level, and now you pair that with the guy that led all of FCS and was the runner-up for basically the Heisman of the FCS. And his numbers are also, I think, misleading, because Harvard plays fewer games. Like, Harvard doesn't play as many games as a
Great point.
13, 14 game schedule like some of these teams in the Big 12 in college football. So you see less than 3,000 yards, and you're like, what? That would have been like 15th in the league. Well, he's playing 4 fewer games.
You know, the Big 12 had 1,000 receiver last year. My guess is that number will be significantly higher into this season. I think the passing offenses in the Big 12, the quarterback play will be significantly improved from last year.
There was one 1,000-yard receiver in the Big 12.
One.
And it wasn't Tyson, right?
No.
Was it McAllister?
Pretty sure it was McAllister, yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. All right, he's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Big 12 NFL draft talk coming up next. Big 12 draft day. Where will the Stars land tonight in the first round? We play a little over-under. We're powered by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Robertson. That's picked off. Keith Abney with the pilfer.
West Virginia down 2 scores. They get a reprieve. Jacob Barrick fumbles. And able to get it back. So on back-to-back plays as Keith Abney jars this one loose.
From the 24. Blitz coming. Pennington steps up. Penny goes down. Keith Abney to second. The corner blitz for the Sun Devils.
So far, ASU has not surrendered a gain of more than 10 yards. Here's one that can happen in a hurry. Knocked out. A fumble recovered by Miles Rouser. Timeouts left for Rich Rodriguez. This is a must-have. 4th down and 4. And ASU takes it away. Keith Abney calls game. He needs 4. Handles a high snap. Lets it go. Right pylon. It is incomplete. Chris Don the target and a matchup of ones. Keith Abney wins this round.
back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are powered by Modelo. Big 12 Draft Day. Where will the stars land? That includes David Bailey. That includes Jordan Tyson, Spencer Fano, Jacob Rodriguez, Max Ahanachor. Does Treydan Stukes slide into the first round? Just the number one headline for you for the Big 12. Like, what are you most excited about when we sit down and watch this puppy tonight?
I think Texas Tech. David Bailey being a top 3 pick. The significance of that, the significance, again, of a team that's going to have 8-9 players drafted and still be the favorite for in the Big 12 next year. I mean, this is huge. When Texas and OU were at the top of this league, or towards the top of this league, like, they were the teams that consistently had players drafted, and it felt like rest of the league didn't. There was a couple of drafts, one where the Big 12 was shut out of the first round entirely, back-to-back, I think 2 straight years shut out of the first round. That included Texas and OU at the end of their time in the Big 12. But it was always like the Big 12 was counting on those 2 programs to be the teams with the most draft. And look, that matters. Getting players drafted matters a ton in recruiting, or matters a ton in the transfer portal, right? Like, proving that, hey, you come here, you end up a better player, which is what Joey McGuire said to us earlier this week, and is certainly the case, is a huge blueprint for success in terms of managing your roster moving forward. So I don't think we can understate the importance of today and the rest of this weekend with the draft as it pertains to the talent acquisition aspect of the Big 12. So the fact that the Big 12 has not only survived but thrived in an era without Texas and OU with the draft, at the draft, shows that maybe Texas and Oklahoma were holding the rest of the conference back, that they were the ones accumulating all the talent. In Texas's view, from the viewpoint of watching Texas, they did not develop players very well for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Talented players would go to Texas, 4 or 5-star kids, and then they'd end up becoming 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable how badly they were at developing players over a strong stretch. So in some ways you could argue that they hampered the Big 12's growth in this area, and that now that they're gone, the attention's on everybody else, and they're flying free, if you will.
Yeah, just to put it into perspective, Texas Tech having 7 or 8 guys drafted over the weekend. So the all-time record for Texas is 17, but that was back in 1984 when it was 12 rounds. In the modern era, Texas's all-time record was last year when they had 12, and the year before that in 2024, they also set a record when they had 11. So they've had back-to-back really strong drafts. Texas Tech is not that far off, and that was SEC-era Texas. That wasn't Big 12. And then with Oklahoma, their all-time record was set in 1988. That was the Barry Switzer era. That was also a 12-round format. They had 13. The 2010 draft was probably their best modern era because they had 4 first-rounders. I don't know what their total number of guys. That was the Sam Bradford draft. But Texas Tech is right there in that conversation in terms of they're going to be with those programs in terms of the number of guys that are getting picked.
Well, and so let's go through the names that are most likely to be off the board in tonight. I mean, David Bailey, that's Tech. Max Ahanachor, Arizona State. Jordan Tyson, Arizona State. So that's 2 schools.
Yep.
Lomu and Fano, that's Utah. It's a 3rd school. Who am I missing?
And then Malachi Lawrence is going to be on the bubble. Latest Daniel Jeremiah draft had him going to the Cowboys at 20. So that would be a UCF kind of flyer. And then Treydan Stukes from Arizona, if he gets taken late in the first round. So you've got, 5 different schools that could potentially have first-round picks? I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, and especially, again, given, I don't know when the exact years were, but there were back-to-back years the Big 12 did not have first-round picks.
Right. So we've heard what the scouts have said, what the teams have said about David Bailey. Let's hear what a former Big 12 player who played against David Bailey said. This is Kansas quarterback Jalen Daniels.
Who's the toughest player you feel you've ever gone up against?
David Bailey.
How good is he?
He's that good.
He's that good.
100%. Probably one of the quickest and shiftiest DNs that I've had to go against since 2020 when we went against Ronnie Perkins against Oklahoma that year. So, yeah, I would say David Bailey for sure.
Everything, quickness, motor.
It's all there, and he's doing it all with no drip neither. I think the only thing he has is his ankles spatted. No gloves. He might have his wrist taped. No sleeves, no nothing. Just going out there and playing football.
You know how many sacks David Bailey had against Kansas and Jalen Daniels?
He didn't even hesitate, so I'm going to guess he had 2 or 3?
Three sacks. That was one of his only 3-sack game. He had multiple 2-sack games, including he had 7 sacks in a 3-game stretch between at Houston, Kansas, and at Arizona State. So that says a lot. And also, in some of the the deep dive draft stuff I've done, I wouldn't call it scouting, but you might call it amateur scouting.
I would say it's scouting.
Amateur.
You're a scouting bro.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm looking for. But at any rate, you watch David Bailey and Romello Height against Utah. You watch him against Arizona State. Big reason why if the Bears do go left tackle or tackle in the first round, I'd rather go Ahanachor than Lomu, which is what some have mocked for the Bears. Lomu is great. I love him in space. But Bailey worked him in that game. I thought Ahanachor did a much better job against Bailey and against Texas Tech.
Yeah, so the latest mock draft from Daniel Jeremiah has Lomu going number 30 overall, back end of the first round. And so I think that's actually 7 players from the Big 12 that he has going in the first round in his latest mock. Let's pivot over to Jacob Rodriguez. So Jacob Rodriguez could slide into the first round. The Cowboys brought him in for a top 30. Here's what he said about meshing with the Dallas Cowboys staff. They have pick 20.
I was fortunate enough to have a visit with them at the Combine, a formal interview with them, and I had a great time. I really loved Coach, everything that we were talking about in that room, and then as the process has gone along, they actually got to come out to Lubbock for our pro day. So we got to sit down and have dinner with them, and I think the biggest thing is they're just great people. I believe that they're great coaches, and CP and the rest of that defensive staff are going to do a lot of great things this year, and they have a lot of good people to be around. I think the biggest thing was they're great people, and they're really cool to be around, and they're great guys. We were able to sit down and have dinner with them, and we got to mesh really well.
Meshed really well. I just think it'd be really cool, whether it's first round, second round, if he landed with the Cowboys. Like Jacob Rodriguez is everything that embodies Texas, toughness, culture. He's just a great kid.
Yeah, from Wichita Falls. So, obviously the ton of Cowboys fans in Wichita Falls, Texas, a place that they used to train many, many years ago. Yeah, Rodriguez to me is like a don't overthink this kind of pick where – you might be looking at the 40 speed or the, maybe you think he's undersized. Maybe, you think the positional need isn't there. Oh, he's just an off-ball line. Like, just don't overthink it. Like, this is a dude that you will draft and plug into your defense and be a team captain for a decade. Like, he's a guy that feels like, based on what we've seen of the growth and his drive and motor and everything, like, just don't overthink this pick. If he's on your board, take him. Take him. I don't care that he's an off-ball linebacker.
Yep. If you had told me at the end of the regular season that the Big 12 would have 7, maybe 8 guys taken in the first round, I would have thought you were nuts. Like, I did not realize how deep this conference was in terms of top-level, high-end talent. Ahanachor has come out of nowhere, ridiculous combine. Then you read these guys' backstories, and you're like, okay, it makes sense. There's a ton of potential from these guys in this conference. So here's my Big 12 edition over-under. Okay, you ready? My over-under. Let's start with number of first-round picks tonight. Originally, I think my number was way too low. So I'm going to set it at 5.5. Over-under 5.5 Big 12 players get taken tonight in the first round.
That's a good number. All right, so let's go with what we know. Spencer Fano, David Bailey, Jordan Tyson are all going to be first-round picks.
There's your big 3.
I would say pretty confidently that, like, the Caleb Lomu, Max Ahanachor, at least one of those guys will go in the first round. Maybe 2, but let's just, for the sake of this, say 1.
Okay, so you're at 4.
Now you've got the Tredan Stukes, Jacob Rodriguez, Malachi Lawrence. Am I missing anybody?
No. You mentioned Lomu.
I would say over. I think 6 is the number.
Okay.
So, again, like, out of the Lomu, Ahanachor, Lawrence, Rodriguez, and Stukes, those 5, I just need 3.
Yep. You need 3 of those 5 to get drafted in the first round.
but 5.5 is the right number.
So you're taking the over on 5.5.
My number is 6.
Okay. All right, Jordan Tyson, over or under, pick 10.5.
Yeah, under, meaning he's a top 10 pick.
Top 10 pick.
Yeah. Again, I think, you look at the medicals, it's there, but, like, football is a dangerous sport played by big, strong young men, right? Like, guys get hurt. The production's there. His ability, to get open, like the improvisational side of things, in the season that Arizona State had in winning the Big 12 and getting to the college football playoff, there was nobody better in college football at getting open late for Sam Leavitt, being an outlet for him. And Leavitt looked for him, and he's the type of guy where it's like you can count on him. When a play's breaking down, like he's trying to still get open. He creates windows where there might not be windows. I think he's really good at running routes and getting open. Tyson, to me, is definitely a top 10 pick.
I just started watching season 2 of Your Friends and Neighbors on Apple TV, and one of the main characters in that series, her name is Sam Leavitt. I can't unsee former Arizona State quarterback Sam Leavitt.
Well, we're going to talk
maybe watch more football.
We're going to talk to Chris Level coming up, and I can't wait to ask him about this rumor. Chris Hummer has some reporting on Brendan Sorsby's recruitment to Texas Tech, and at one point, Hummer references that when Sorsby was visiting LSU, that Texas Tech thought about pivoting, quote unquote, to Sam Leavitt, which I don't think is true. So I can't wait to ask Chris Level about that.
You don't think it's true?
Correct.
You don't think Sam Leavitt was ever on their radar?
No, I do not.
I think Sorsby was the number one guy.
Yes.
Number one cat.
And maybe they've been looking to pivot, but I don't think they at any point were interested in Sam Leavitt.
Will, do you have the audio from that doctor talking about Jordan Tyson? It's okay if you don't. We can get it later.
No, it definitely would not be okay if I didn't have that.
Dr. Chow.
It would not be okay.
Dr. David Chow, Pro Football MD.
What I'm saying here is medical isn't going to determine where he's drafted. I think he's fine medically. His talent will determine where he's drafted. And his talent might have him at the top of the wide receiver draft. And I think it will come to fruition there. Not worried about Jordan Tyson, despite all this injury-prone stuff, which I don't like that injury-prone term. The kid plays hard. His injuries are not related. And look at how he's performed in the years since his knee injury. Not real worried about him.
Yeah, he's going in the top 10. Would you rather have Tyson or T-Mac?
T-Mac.
He's elite.
He just won Offensive Rookie of the Year and helped to lead Carolina to the playoffs.
Like 6'5", runs a 4.4. It's ridiculous. That wasn't a fair question.
No knock on Tyson at all. Dane Brugler from The Athletic, he did a 7-round mock. He's got 5 Big 12 players going in the first round, including Malachi Lawrence, 26 to the Buffalo Bills, and Caleb Lomu, 27 to the 49ers. But he's got 8 in the top 40. So he's got Max Ahanachor going 35th, Jacob Rodriguez going 37th to the Giants, Trey Knight-Stukes going 39th to the Cowboys. So he's got 5 in the first round, but 8 in the top 40.
Man, that'd be a good draft. All right, coming up next, Chris Level from Texas Tech, their Red Raider radio network. Also host of Locked On Red Raiders. He'll join us after this timeout. And then in hour number 2, we pivot over to basketball. Our full court review, Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps series continues with Kansas today. So Level coming up after this. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio.
Malachi Lawrence ends that drive for K-State. He is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2. Third down and long, trouble on the edge, and they go back-to-back. This one belongs to Malachi Lawrence. Johnson on a 4th and 6. Scans, backpedaling, going the opposite way. Now he curls around the edge, in pursuit, UCF gets to him. Malachi Lawrence, one of their 2 vaunted pass rushers on the edge, ends that drive for K-State.
He's got our antennas up. And the antenna goes down. Malachi Lawrence again. This time, his first sack of the season.
That's just absolute force right there by Malachi Lawrence.
It's a play if you're UCF. Here's Pryor, and he is swallowed up behind the line of scrimmage. Malachi Lawrence, a loss of 2, and Leaves the pocket to the numbers and track down. Malachi Lawrence finishes 3 here in Orlando with his UCF 9th.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. We head out to Lubbock to chat with Chris Level from the Texas Tech Red Raider Radio Network, host of Locked On Red Raiders. And Chris, tonight will be a historic night for Texas Tech and a historic weekend for the Red Raiders. Just what's the headline to you?
Yeah, I mean, probably the amount of players that should be selected, and we'll just see how it plays out. I mean, David Bailey's going to have his name called tonight. There's just no doubt about that, and it's going to come early. But we just don't know. There's a chance that Jacob Rodriguez or Lee Hunter could have their name called tonight, but if not, you're for sure going to have, I think, 3 players have their name called tomorrow when you get to rounds 2 and 3 with Lee Hunter and Jacob Rodriguez, and then Romello Height added to that. But it's just, what's the total? Do you get to 7? Do you get to 8? Is there more than that? I mean, you've got the 2 receivers. You've got Cole Wisniewski. You've got Skylar Go Howard. There's a chance with Barron. So I don't know. the draft is one of my favorite things because it's tremendous reality TV. I mean, it's just tremendous, and it blends this world of college and the NFL. And if you're a fan of a certain player or a certain college team or an NFL team, it just all kind of runs together. And then just the drama, the trading, the I can't believe this guy's fallen. Or man, they reached on that guy. I mean, it's just, because everybody thinks that they're better at it than everybody else, and mistakes get made. But then there's folks that are really good at it too. So, but yeah, it should be. Joey. I was with Joey at a banquet, a football banquet last night. Jacob Rodriguez was honored. He was not in attendance, but Joey, he indicated he would be headed out to Pittsburgh today to be there in person when David Bailey gets his name called.
Yeah, and Chris, it's what's really interesting is I think in some ways this draft represents really a new era of Texas Tech football. They've had 3 first-round picks in 2017, Patrick Mahomes in 17, Jordan Brooks in 2020, and Tyree Wilson in 2023. And, Wilson was sort of a surprise, not that he was taken as high as he was, but, going into the season, I don't know that he was on the radar as much as he became. And then Brooks, I think, was a huge surprise at the end of the first round for Seattle. But this is not like, I don't want to call that fluky, but that seems more fluky than what this is. This is way more sustainable. And the fact that Tech right now has 8 guys that were invited to the Combine, could have as many drafted, maybe more, and is still considered the favorite for Big 12 next year, to me, again, represents a completely new era of Texas Tech football. Throw the history out.
Yeah, well, and there's a direct correlation into to this night or this weekend and what kind of season you just had.
Yes.
I mean, that's just the way it works. Like you see what leagues get, have guys drafted the most. You see what teams have, and usually they were pretty good the year before. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, but more often than not, that's a pretty good. But yeah, you go back to, we've talked a lot of NFL draft and the historical precedents and all that, in some of the platforms that I'm on, and you have to go back to really to what the 2009 draft. And that's when you were coming off of that 2008 season, which was really your last best season compared to this last year. And you had a player picked in the first, one in the second, one in the third, and one in the fourth round. And that was the Michael Crabtree. He was the first rounder then, but Darcel McBath, who's back here coaching corners, he was a second-round pick by the Broncos. Louis Vasquez was a stud offensive tackle that got picked in the third, and then Brandon Williams went to the Cowboys. But yeah, this is a bit different. It's deeper, and to your point, Ari, I think there's a chance they could eclipse this number a year from now. It won't maybe be as top-heavy or what the right word is, sexy or flashy, but they could be deeper next year, and more combine invites, more players chosen, and it'll be obviously led by Brendan Sorsby. But yeah, fascinating little run that the Red Raiders are on. But yeah, they have a lot back, and they added a lot in the portal. But yeah, draft time could be a lot of fun for Joey McGuire and company. But again, that's part of their philosophy on when they go to the portal and they're trying to recruit. They're trying to put people in the NFL, and that's just what the big boys do, and that's what James Blanchard and company are trying to put together.
Yeah, this is essentially like a recruiting weekend for Texas Tech. How many of the guys that are getting drafted or just ballpark were on Texas Tech's radar this past offseason in the portal because of what NFL scouts were saying? Because I know James Blanchard really leans into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, every one of the portal guys was, because that's, and David Bailey and Romello Height, you don't have to look too hard to find that they were on the NFL radar, if you will. But Cole Wisniewski and I think Reggie Virgil, guys like that. But that's part of the analysis, and it's part of the breakdown when they're going to get guys. I mean, I think James Blanchard knows a ton of people in the NFL, and some of what they brought in that you'll see this fall. There was a lot of consult with a lot of the NFL folks, about some of those guys, and some of these guys have mid-round grades already, but they decided to try to come to school and try to lean on that. I mean, because David Bailey, back a year from now, nobody is suggesting he's some top 5, top 10 pick. I mean, yeah, you're going to see second round, third round, but he came here and he maxed out. I mean, and he's just golly, he was fun to watch. I mean, 14 and a half sacks, and it's like he just shot out of a cannon on some of these plays, and it's just like unbelievably fun to watch. And those I mean, he's a unicorn. I mean, you just don't, how do you replace a guy like that? Well, you don't. But guess what? Nobody else has one of those guys either in the country. But it's been fun to watch guys really come here and improve upon what kind of the NFL thought of them in the 1 year that they would have been here.
Who's the most underrated Texas Tech player in this draft, in your opinion?
Cole Wisniewski.
Yeah.
I did not understand why he didn't get invited to the combine. This is a 6'4", 220-pound safety. I think some in the NFL maybe want to peg him as a linebacker because of that size, but he ran a good time. He's durable. And it's fair to say, okay, he's maybe an inside the box safety or and I mean I think the question is, okay, well, if he's playing center field or he's back on the back end, can he cover and all that? But I mean, he ran a good time. He showed some quickness, and he's a phenomenal human. I mean, he's just a great kid, and that's the one I didn't understand. If the fact that he didn't get invited to the combine, it's not going to shock me a bit if has his name called in the 4th or 5th round. And so I just never understood it because he had a great pro day. I just spent a lot of time around him during the season, and he's just and he was available for every game. But I mean, he's a great tackler. I mean, I just don't. That one baffled me, and I think the folks around the Texas Tech football program were baffled at the lack of a combine invite too. I mean, just kind of like, yeah, we don't get it either, kind of thing. So that would be an easy one. The receivers, that's kind of a pick your favorite flavor of ice cream. I don't know. Do you like Rocky Road? Do you like strawberry? Do you like cookies and cream? Do you like? I don't know, because those guys are going to be in a group of a bunch of receivers, and it's like, do you want the big guy? Do you want potentially the fast guy? Do you want the small slot guy? I don't know. I don't know how to feel that. Reggie may be have a bit more upside. Caleb maybe is a bit more consistent, and then Barron. I mean, I think he's somebody. If he gets has his name called in the late rounds, he'll be in somebody's camp. But to answer your question, sorry for being long-winded, was Cole Wisniewski. But
no, that's a great answer.
The other guys are no-brainers. The other guys are being rated fairly, and it'll come down to, is Jacob Rodriguez. Is he a late first rounder or is he a mid second round? But I think he's same with Lee Hunter.
This is kind of like the draft birth of a new era for Texas Tech. Is there more NFL talent on this team that just completed their season, or the team that we're going to see in 2026?
I think again, you don't have a David Bailey on your current team. Okay, so I'm clear. I don't know if you're going to have like some no-brainer, like first, second round types like you've got, but I think deeper. I think there could be more NFL talent. Yeah, and it starts with, so your quarterback is going to be in that conversation. I mean, there was folks that I think showed up to the pro day, general manager and head coaches, for twofold. They wanted to see what was on display, but then there was a lot of conversations being had with Brendan Sorsby, just kind of laying the groundwork. I mean, Aaron Glenn, the head coach of the Jets, we'll see if he's the head coach a year from now. Sure, he's looking at David Bailey, but was he, I think they have 4 first-round picks next year, and guess what? They will need a quarterback. So Sorsby headlines it. Your 2 offensive tackles, your tight end, pick the variety of defensive linemen. Both edge players are NFL guys. There's probably 2 to 4 of your interior on your defensive line are NFL guys. Ben Roberts, Austin Romaine, the transfer in. Bryce Pollock was a first-team All-Big 12 corner. I would have told you a year ago that Bryce Pollock would have been maybe your highest upside NFL player, but he's going to come back, and I think he's just a really, really good corner. So, I mean, and then I think they've got some of the receivers they brought in. That would depend on if they can run a good time, Dante Lee, Kenny Johnson, guys like that. But you get the point. They are there's a lot. I mean, because we're at 10 to 12 easily, and these are legit NFL grades. These are legit on the radar. Again, I'm not suggesting first, second round with a lot of these guys, but I mean, there's a lot of mid-round type guys. But yeah, they could overwhelm the combine again next year.
Curious, Chris. Chris Hummer from CBS Sports had a report that came out about Brendan Sorsby's recruitment, and it's some really. Did you see it?
I'm aware of what you're going to ask me. Sam Levitt was never visiting here. No.
Yeah.
James Blanchard. He's done some. I thought it was interesting that he kind of. I don't know. He told on himself. They were trying to. I mean, James Blanchard has said it on a few platforms now, but he's like, we just it was just a leverage play. We're going to leak it out that Sam Levitt is going to visit here, and we'll just kind of find out how bad Brendan wants to come here and all those things. But yeah, Sam Levitt was never going to play here. We were trying to talk about it and report on it in real time, and I was stunned when I saw these reports because they were coming out from like the Bruce Feldmans and all these people,
reputable reporters, right.
And so I'm like, well, okay, but I just at the end of the day, because I had a pretty strong inkling all along that right, wrong, or indifferent, there was some serious concern about Sam Levitt's injury because he didn't go through spring, and he may end up being fine, this fall. But I also, again, right, wrong, or indifferent, there was a lot of questions that you seemingly heard about just what kind of locker room guy he was or leader he was, and I just knew that they wanted a Texas guy to come back home. And Mac Leftowich's dad was very familiar with Brendan Sorsby from Lake Dallas High School, and there was just a lot of connection there. So I just think that Brendan, was always the top focus, the top target, and maybe Sorsby just felt like he owed it to himself to at least hear Lane Kiffin out and just go see. But anyway, they ended up getting their guy, and I think it's going to work out very, very well.
Yeah, a psychological masterclass in recruiting. Texas Tech gets their guy. Chris, appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the draft tonight.
Hey, keep hope alive, boys. Y'all enjoy it too, and Jacob Rodriguez. Yep. No matter what.
To the Cowboys. It's going to happen,
Chris.
Take 20.
There you go.
All right. Chris Level from Texas Tech, Red Raider Radio Network, host of Locked On Red Raiders, joining us here on Big 12 today. Coming up next hour, we pivot over to basketball, our full court review, Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps. The voice of the Kansas Jayhawks, Brian Haney, will join us in about 20 because we highlight Kansas today. That's next. I'm James, and this is Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo.
On third down, but Torrey scrambling and gets dropped in the backfield. Najee Kelly.
Sets up first down and goal for Cincinnati from the 8. Quarterback draw with Sorsby, and he gets swallowed up immediately. Najee Kelly atones for Muzzle, but he stays on side, right? He's not jumping off side. He's doing a good job in the passing game. First down, Andrew Paul on his first carry. Swallowed at the line of scrimmage.
But a good job up front, too, beating the block. 55, John Walker.
Editor.
Oh, look out. Kelly made the hit. The ball comes loose. Rodney Laura has it, and the officials say he's also got a touchdown.
Talked about him before. I mean, he's a problem. He's just a problem waiting to happen.
Steps up. Scooped up. It's going to be a quick 6.
Make plays. Here's Kelly Lawson right in the middle. He bluffs up and then drops back. So that when the defensive end knocks that ball out of the quarterback's hands, it's almost like a blocked kick.
Daniels will give to Williams, and Williams denied. Najee Kelly, the former Miami Hurricane, coming up with a stop. Nowhere for the running back to go, but Kelly
Big 12 Today, Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Brought to you by Modelo. Brian Haney, the voice of the Jayhawks, will be with us in about 15. Our full court review, Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps. We look at this past season, what they've done so far in the offseason, and relatively quiet in Lawrence, Kansas, as we highlight KU today. So 24-11 is a pretty good season for anybody, but KU's not anybody. KU expects Final Fours. Kansas, third straight year in a row that they don't get to the Sweet 16 the second weekend of the tournament. What do you think was the number one story?
Well, I think it's obvious the number one story is. Let me just first say that as we count up from 16-1, that Kansas should have been tomorrow as the 3 in the Big 12. This should have been Texas Tech. I just want to set the record straight. Regardless of the outcome of this season, Kansas did finish third in the Big 12, and we're doing them on the day that the 4th team should have been featured.
Got it. Because we're a little Texas Tech heavy today with draft stuff and Chris Level. We got to mix it up.
Yep. So just want to set the record straight, just so we're all on the same page here. But, I mean, obviously Derek Peterson was the number one story. He missed 11 games, plus was limited in additional games, played, majority of first half of games, and then sat out the second half. When he did play, he was a stud. He averaged 20 points a game, cost 24 games. 44% from the field, 38% from 3. Maybe not as good as expected, but still pretty good numbers when he did play. The thing is, and Bill Self has even said this after the fact, that he made a mistake and acknowledged basically after the season that like, quote, it wasn't handled from the coach's perspective. I didn't force anybody to talk, end quote. So I think just the Darren Peterson not talking, not getting out in front of the narrative around him, allowed the narrative to take on a life form of its own. We talked about that when it was going on. Like, get out in front of it, say something. And because he didn't, it allowed this narrative to kind of take on, a life of its own. It allowed Kansas to be in the news cycle. Stephen A. Smith at one point on First Take was ripping on Darren Peterson. So all this stuff that could have been handled to a degree by getting out in front and saying this is what's going on or talking openly to the media didn't happen. So I just think the Darren Peterson situation obviously was front and center this entire season. Look, at the end of the day, he was their most important and impactful player down the stretch of the season. And I think maybe the biggest secondary story is the Melvin Council, Trey White, Bryson Tiller 3 that really helped Kansas during the season for big games when they didn't have Peterson or he didn't play in the second half. Those 3 guys were the reason why Kansas won many games, but they were absolutely terrible down the stretch of the season. If you go and look at their final 4 games, those 3 guys, okay, Melvin Council, Bryson Tiller, all significantly lower than their season averages. Let's just start with Bryson Tiller. Bryson Tiller averaged 8 points, 6 rebounds on 45% shooting, okay? In the final 4 games, the 2 Big 12 tournament and the 2 NCAA tournament games, he averaged 5 points, 6 rebounds on 33% shooting from the floor. 33% shooting, down from 44 in the regular season. Melvin Council took a nosedive in those final 4 games. So in the biggest moments of the season where those players were needed, Melvin Council, 13 points averaging on the season, 5 rebounds, 5 assists per game, shot 39% from the floor. He has at 7 points per game in the final 4, 4 assists. He shot 12 for 50, 24%, including 2 of 13 from 3. So again, the guy that shot 39% from the floor over the season, final 4 games, shot just 24%. And then Trey White maybe took the biggest nosedive. And what's funny is he had a great finish to the regular season in those final 4 games, 2 in the Big 12, 2 in the NCAA tournament. Trey White, 7 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1 assist per game on 30% shooting, and he was 2 of 15 from 3. And a guy that had a really good season, his numbers were dramatically down. So I would argue that that's the reason that they had the early exit, not Darren Peterson.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And with Melvin Council, you could see at the Big 12 tournament, he lost his confidence. I mean, he was not the same player. This is a guy that was filling it up against NC State, against Colorado. I mean, he was on a tear. And then once he lost his legs and the shots weren't falling, he just didn't look like the same player. I think it impacted him on both ends. And then same thing with Trey White. Like, Trey White is a long, rangy guard. Teams figured out that, hey, be super physical with him, push him off the three-point line. He doesn't want to handle the basketball. He's a different player. But it's the 3rd year in a row that Kansas has kind of disappeared offensively. Like, they've been solid on the defensive end of the floor with Badunga, even though he's not going to be back next year. like back-to-back seasons, they've been really good defensively, but not enough offensive firepower, which is really unique in the Bill Self era because we've never seen it before.
Yeah. Just hold that thought for a moment, just to wrap a bow around the conversation, because I think these play to each other, and you're totally right about the Trey White piece. Trey White shot 45% for the floor in the regular season. He shot 30% from the floor in those Final Four games. So his percentage was down 15 percentage points from his regular season average. Melvin Council shot 39% from the floor in the regular season, 24% in that 4-game stretch. Down 15%, and then Bryson Tiller was down 11% from 44% during the regular season to 33%. So I like dramatic shooting percentages in terms of decreases. I mean, two guys who were main guards all year shot 15% lower in those Final Four games. Remarkable. But yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. KenPom offensive efficiency, they finished 58th. In 2025, they finished 52nd. In 2024, they finished 59th. That's not good enough.
Nope. That's not going to cut it. And it's not going to cut it at Kansas. So looking ahead to this offseason, KU has 8 guys on their roster, and that's even with the portal additions that they've picked up in the last week. With Keanu Dawes from Utah, I love that pickup. One of the best rebounders in the Big 12 for the number of minutes that he played. Super athletic, 6'9", long-armed, probably a future pro. And then Leroy Blyden Jr., the electrifying MAC Freshman of the Year from Toledo, is a walking bucket. He's a 6'1" point guard. He'll share the backcourt duties with Talon Kinney, who's a high-level freshman. So Kansas, even without Stokes, who's still on the fence, it's down to what, KU and Kentucky?
Maybe Oregon, too.
Oregon's now entered the chat. I almost think it'd be better for KU if he goes elsewhere.
Well, and I think Tunde Yesufu will go wherever Stokes doesn't go. He's apparently, there's been a pretty high-level offer from Kentucky to both Milan Momcilovic and to Tunde Yesufu, but we also know that they're in on some big-level money to Tyron Stokes. And I've also seen and heard rumors that Kansas is looking at Yesufu if Stokes does go to Kentucky. So it feels like wherever Stokes goes, Yesufu will go to the opposite, which I think is like not a bad consolation prize for a guy that averaged 18 points a game and is going to a sophomore season. They're also apparently in on Victorious Miller, the former Oklahoma State guard, 6'5". He's on their radar. And there's also been rumors about Gabe Dines, who's 7'5", a USC transfer who 2 years ago averaged 3 blocks a game at Youngstown State. Look, I think the strategy, I like the strategy by Bill Self. A couple of years ago, he just threw a bunch of money at it, and it was like added a ton of players, so much so that like he added Riley Kugel, and then Kugel ended up leaving because there was too many other guys that he added. That didn't work. I think last year he took a more strategic approach, and he probably didn't throw up enough firepower at it around Darren Peterson. I think this year he's taking more of a measured approach, almost one by one. All right, we added Dawes, that improves that. We've added Blyden, this improves that. He's sort of allowing the roster to take shape. And the reality is this is a very deep market. Whether it's the transfer portal, whether it's the international market, like it might seem like they're slow-footed, and we'll see how this ends up. But I would say I'd rather be in this spot where you're kind of letting the market come to you than you're being overly aggressive, as we've seen Bill Self be the last couple of years.
Totally agree. I think there's that initial panic factor because you see all these guys signing in the first 48 hours. It is a deep market. There are G League players. A kid just signed with Texas A&M. Texas Tech just picked up a 20-point-per-game score from UNLV in the last 24 hours. Yesufu's out there. Momcilovic is out there. If it's Stokes or Yesufu, I'm taking Yesufu. No questions asked. He's a great kid, hard worker. You just went through all this with Peterson. I wouldn't want to even touch that drama with Stokes. And Kansas.
Yeah, it's great points. Now, he and Kinney are really good friends. But, yeah, I feel like either way you're in good shape. And it does feel like Yesufu would be the better player. But he's also the number 1 player in the class.
Right. And I like the selective approach that we're seeing from Kansas and Arizona and even Texas Tech. And I think you're spot on with that, with how deep the market is. Like K-State's second leading scorer, David Castillo, who was maybe their best player last year, he just transferred to Santa Clara. Santa Clara. He's transferring down on paper because the market is so deep in these high-level programs. their rosters are either full or they think there's better players still left out there.
Well, and that's it, right? You've got a lot of guys that are they might enter the portal and think there's going to be a ton of offers, and then when those offers don't come in because teams are being patient, you might get impatient and think like, well, I've got to sign somewhere because I don't want to be in this game of musical chairs standing without a seat. And so there are certainly guys that can wait it out, but I do think that there's now a waiting period of like, we've got to see when. I mean, Tyron Stokes right now is sort of controlling the market. Just decide, dude. My God, this thing's being dragged out. Just make a decision here.
Yeah. Like, that fact alone is a red flag to me. Just the fact that, like, continuing to draw this out. See, he wants to milk these programs for every dollar that he can possibly get.
I think it's, and this is also a red flag, I think it's more of like an ego thing.
Yeah, he wants to be the guy. Totally. By the way, KU's recruiting class last year, high school recruits, not portal, with Darren Peterson, was ranked 16th in the country. KU's recruiting class right now.
With Darren Peterson.
That's with Peterson. Their recruiting class right now, without Stokes, who's on the fence, is top 5 in the country. KU's currently 5th. The top 5 recruiting classes, Duke's number 1, Michigan's number 2, Michigan State is number 3. You know who number 4 is? It's a Big 12 school. KU's number 5.
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State.
Only because I looked at your screen.
Oklahoma State is 4th in the country. Wow. They just landed a top 40 prospect. We'll touch on that later.
Well, and Oklahoma State is going to fall because Stokes is going to go to either Kentucky or Kansas, and both will move ahead.
Yep.
But, I mean, that's incredible for what Steve Lutz has done, and there's going to be high expectations for that team. Paul Mbia also entered the portal, but he's back. I love that. I mean, look, is he as good right now as Flory Badunga? No, but I think the defensive upside is there, and it's not like Flory gave you a ton of offense. So, the biggest step back in there would be the offensive game, and I'm not that worried about it. And then, yeah, I mean, to highlight what you just talked about, I mean, the Kinney, I'm trying to look for here's the names. So Talon Kinney, the point guard, he's a 5-star, number 2 point guard overall, according to 24/7. Then there's Trent Perry, a small forward, 4-star, number 37 in the 2026 class per 24/7 Sports. Luke Barnett from Mater Dei High School in California, 4-star, number 21, shooting guard of the 2026 class. And then Davion Atkins, another 4-star center, who's the number 7 center, chose Kansas over Houston, Auburn, Arizona State, and Rutgers.
KU's roster right now, I think, is as good and maybe better than it was last year and maybe the last 3 years. Like, this freshman class is elite. And then also just the fact that you brought up Mbia. Love that he's coming back. He's a 7-footer with a 7'8" wingspan. And then I like the way this roster's coming together.
Yeah, I'm with you on Rosario. He really struggled shooting the basketball. He was a guy that really in the preseason looked to be a major contributor. I think he even reclassified, so he was 18 during the season. So, yeah, I expect a big year for him, year 2 here.
All right, coming up after the break, we continue our KU discussion with the voice of the Jayhawks, Brian Haney. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn and watched on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Big 12 Studios.
Kansas in the blue, Tech in the white, and Flory Badunga wins the tip against only player in the country, averaging 20 and 10, JT Topper. Flip to Tiller. Nice. Lob to Badunga, and they throw it down. Flory off the feed from Tiller, and that
good play right there.
Watts will try and hit. Tech with the lead.
Watch out.
Atwell. And just like that, the lead is 6. Timeout, Kansas.
How about Texas Tech? This building is alive. First Watts, he's been off all night, but Atwell is almost never
of the year and now 3-time Big 12 Player of the Week. He said he still feels like he's overlooked and has something to prove. Coach McCasland said his work ethic is unmatched.
Peterson inbounds. Under 90 seconds. They find Peterson. Launches. Hits! Oh, boy. Everybody on their feet in Lubbock. Peterson buries it.
Wow. There it is.
And White, it's a loose ball.
Gotta shoot it.
Atwell. And Kansas escapes with a win.
Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo, alongside Ari Timken. I'm James Westling with you each and every weekday from our Big 12 compound here on Big 12 Studios. We welcome in the voice of the Kansas Jayhawks, Brian Haney, the play-by-play announcer for KU, because today is our full court review. Modelo's Big 12 basketball team recaps with the Kansas Jayhawks. Brian, good morning. How are you?
If it wasn't 8:20 in the morning, I'd ask you, where's my Modelo? If this whole full court review is brought to you by Modelo. But, yeah, Central Time, 8:20 a.m., I could probably wait. I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Man, fantastic. 8:20 p.m., we're right there with you, but a.m.
It's draft day. It's 8 a.m. on draft day.
It starts at 10:01 a.m. Central for Ari, because Ari is so pumped up for the draft. Hey, KU might actually have a couple of guys taken, yeah?
We could. Jalen Daniels had several top 30 visits with some NFL teams, including the Chiefs and Patriots. Excited about his future, even if it's as the third quarterback on a roster. He'll have a lot to bring there. But yeah, I am right there with you, Ari. And ever since the draft came to Kansas City, what would that have been, 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago? I've been to a couple of drafts now. I went the next year when it was in Detroit. I had so much fun. So it's a blast. And I used to study this stuff as a kid and try to mock draft everybody even 30 years ago. So can't wait for it tonight. And yes, we've got several guys that, are hopefuls. And if not, in terms of getting drafted, will absolutely sign undrafted rookie free agent contracts as Coach Leipold continues to recruit the type of player, that has NFL skills and athleticism, like Emmanuel Henderson, for example. I mean, his speed will find its way onto some roster this summer, whether he's drafted over the next 3 days or not. And so we're excited for him, no doubt.
I mean, look, football, basketball, let's talk KU baseball, man. Of all the sports this calendar year, I would say KU baseball is the best, and we'll see how this thing finishes. But they're number one in the Big 12 right now, a huge midweek victory over 16th ranked Nebraska or 20th ranked Nebraska. At home. Two-part question. Number one, I mean, how good is this team? And then number two, what's interesting is, Allen Fieldhouse is Allen Fieldhouse with the student section. But what we've seen for the student section at KU baseball games is, I think, unprecedented across all KU sports that are not basketball.
Yeah, that's fair. And you're a Jayhawk, so you would know that. I'm trying to think. The crowd at the Horse Volleyball Arena is always sold out, but it's, I don't want to say a little bit older crowd, but it kind of is. Whereas basketball's become this in vogue student thing. And baseball has become this in vogue student thing where it started last season when they made their first regional in 11 years, and they had the student section right on top of the home dugout. And these students would get so rowdy and so into it that while we fed off of that energy and it fueled the KU players' fire, it was almost a little distracting. So this year they moved them atop the visitors' dugout. And as you saw on TV the other night, if you tuned in, sellout crowd, raucous, rowdy, getting after it kind of atmosphere. Those that are of age probably had their Modelos a lot earlier than 8:20 p.m. And they brought it strong. So we're excited about the home field atmosphere that they've created in a short amount of time here. This is just season 4 of Coach Fitz's reign at Kansas, and he said the other night, we got the best student section in America. And I know all coaches probably say that at some point, but he believes that this is a guy who's been at LSU and Dallas Baptist before coming to Kansas. And, the question of how legit are they, I would say very, because the pitching has only recently rounded into form. They've currently won 20 of their last 23, and over the first 15 or so games of that stretch, they were pounding out about 10 runs a game, and the pitching at times was more suspect than it's been of late. They had to outslug folks. Last couple weeks, the pitching has been brilliant, and we've had multiple different Big 12 pitchers of the week, and Dom Vagley just had a career-high 15 Ks the other day in Stillwater. He did not win Big 12 Pitcher of the Week, and I'm one of the voters, and that's okay, because there's another kid that also had 15 that was completely 6 scoreless shutout innings on his tab. Dom gave up a couple of runs, but point is, Kansas has done it with different arms, and they've all been clicking of late. And then the offense, in this 20 of 23 stretch that they've won, I think the current number is they've averaged about 8.8 runs per game.
Wow.
Tyson LeBlanc. It's a French-Canadian pronunciation. It looks like LeBlanc, but it's actually LeBlanc. And if you learn how to say it right, his uncle will cook you jambalaya, we learned. So he has become a household name, even though some folks are still figuring out how to say it. And he has a chance to be in that Big 12 Player of the Year conversation, the types of numbers he's posting. So we're fired up, got baseball fever. We've only been to the College World Series once in our program's history. That was 1993. And I'm not saying they're going to get there necessarily, but they have a chance to be a regional host, and that's the first step. You got to be one of those 16 regional hosts. Right now, our RPI is 18 or 19, depending on where you look. And I'll tell you, I'm fired up to see what this stretch run could look like, because get this stat, guys. I know Ari might know this. We've never won a Big 12 regular season championship. We won a Big 12 tournament title in 2006. Still a big deal, but you do that in 5 days as opposed to 3 months. We've never won a Big 8 baseball championship. We haven't won a regular season baseball championship since 1949.
Wow.
Okay? Wow. That's what's at stake the next 4 weeks with a 2-game lead. Also, what's at stake is hosting a regional in that rowdy, raucous atmosphere that we opened talking about. So the month of late May, early June could be a lot of fun around Naismith Drive, but not for basketball reasons. I'm talking about the venue across the parking lot from Allen Fieldhouse. Hoagland Ballpark could be special.
Man, that's awesome. Great stuff from Brian Haney, voice of the Jayhawks. 8.5 runs per game will put people in the seats. Pivoting back to basketball, so with KU's full court review and looking ahead to next season, I would say what stands out to me is that KU's got some retention on their roster with Cole Rosario and Mbia coming back for next year. Like, I look at last year's roster, the only guy that was really a retention piece was Badunga, and we saw what he did emerging into a star in this league. So start with the guys that are coming back for next year in those two.
Yeah, I think that certainly the door would have been open for Flory to return if he wanted to. Really likable young man, and was the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year and first-team All-League. Bryson Tiller, who left for Mizzou, and I know you said start with the guys that are coming back, but just to kind of summarize why we were so happy to have Cole and Paul return. Tiller leaves for Missouri. That's never happened before. We've had an example of a previous Tiger join forces over here. We recruited some Columbia kids like DeJuan Harris, but in the Border Showdown series, you don't often see that in the rivalry series. And he was a 5-star, top 20 recruit at the time he committed before he reclassified to come in early and rehab an injury, about a year and a half ago. And really likable kid too. Would have loved to have seen him flourish at Kansas. But, I don't think truly scratched the surface of his potential this past year for a multitude of reasons. But they probably had an inkling that one was going to happen. And of the remaining options, I think that of the guys that they could have brought back, they were able to retain Cole and Paul, because both of those two young men showed flashes of a much higher ceiling that's in there. Paul, not really until late in the year. But Paul Mbia has a 7'8" wingspan. He's built a little bit like Udoka Azubuike, if you remember that name, and I know Ari does, only he's got longer arms and he's more raw. So, he's not going to go score 18 and 12 next season, but could he be a guy that in larger stretches comes in for rim protection, rebounding, the occasional lob dunk? You saw it out in San Diego in the NCAA tournament where they turned him loose a little bit in terms of playing time after really being bottled up deep in the rotation for much of the year, and he flourished. And apparently the reason why is in the last month of the regular season, they started to put him on the red team, which is the scout team. And even though he was playing with walk-ons around him, he was playing more in practice and really developed some confidence and a little bit of rhythm. And then that was on display late. And we all kind of thought, man, I hope he stays, because he has the God-given length and physical attributes that you can't teach. But he just needs more seasoning. And so once he committed officially, recommitted, and had a great quote about, this is all about loyalty. Money can't buy my loyalty, and I want to be at Kansas. That was so cool. Cole Rosario, equally impressive with his maturity and some of the things he said pre-recommitment and post-recommitment. Going back as late as early February, he was telling me, Brian, so many of the kids my age, they all want instant gratification. They got to have the playing time now, the fame now, the star status now. He's like, I'm really about delayed gratification, putting in the work so that I enjoy the fruits of my labors later and understanding what it took to get here. And that wasn't just a glossy comment from a guy who was averaging a couple of points a game and only getting in for 5 or 6 minutes. That was genuine mindset from a kid who's one of the spiritual front runners on this team and will be a spiritual leader next year on the team, very grounded and rooted in his faith. And I felt like we had a chance to keep him just because in this era where it seems like everybody's seeking greener pastures, bigger paychecks, more playing time, more headlines, whatever word you want to put on it, this was a guy that wasn't afraid to dig in and work a little harder and wait on his turn to come. The year did not go the way he thought it would after he reclassified. I heard you guys talking earlier. He would have been a top 30 prospect, rated number 27 to be exact, in this upcoming freshman class, but came in a year early to be a last-minute addition as a sharpshooter on the perimeter. Did not sustain some of the early season shooting that we saw in preseason camp. And there were stretches in practice where he looked like that marksman they brought him in to be, but then, missed some shots early that I think became a little bit of a confidence thing. And then, went through a series of a couple of months where he was barely playing and didn't hit a three for a couple of months until I think we got to Stillwater, Oklahoma in mid-February, and he hit his first three in league play, if that puts a timestamp on it for you. I'm here to tell you, though, as you guys alluded to in your previous segment, so athletic, has such great instincts on offensive rebounds, on when to crash the glass. He comes flying in routinely over everybody to pluck the ball off the iron, either with a tip dunk or he brings it down and saves you a possession. And the shooting is there. He just got on one of those tough spells where, unfortunately, the misses piled up, and I think the confidence waned. Not only his personal confidence in trying to shoot his way out of it, but other guys in the rotation moved ahead of him at that point, and the coaching staff wasn't giving him as many minutes. He started the first 5 or 6 games of the year. Didn't just play in them, he started them. So this is a guy that I know they have really high hopes for, and in terms of checking all the boxes of great teammate, awesome attitude, tremendous work ethic, he has all that and then some. So if you would have told me leaving San Diego when we got beat in the round of 32, who realistically did I think could come back and who would this coaching staff want to come back the most? It probably would have been those two guys because they had the highest ceiling and the most untapped potential. Flory Bidunga, yeah, absolutely. But I think we knew at that point that there had been some whispers of his agency willing to, see what other opportunities might be out there. And so of the guys that you really felt like you had a great chance to bring back and had so much more growing to do, those probably would have been the coaching staff's favorites, and that's who they're able to bring back. We have to say goodbye to Elmarko and Jamari, two other young men I love a lot and think the world of, and I think they're going to be great successes in college basketball at Georgetown and Wake Forest. But for the fit at Kansas, I think these are the two that Coach Self was most excited to try to retain, and now you add in a freshman class around them with, as of today, 4 really talented pieces, including Talon Kinney, one of the top point guard recruits in the country. And then we've been able to get commitments from and sign 2 transfer portal guys that I'm sure you'll ask about next. But sitting here, that means we've got 8 guys, and we need to add probably 4 more impactful guys, as many as 7 more guys, and that means there's still a lot of work to be done, including another big man, a couple of more wing scorers. You can never have enough shooting, and ever since Grady Dick left to go to the Toronto Raptors a couple of years back, we found that out, that we need more shooting because we were spoiled in that 2018 team that set the school record for threes with Devontae Graham and Sviatoslav Mikhailuk and Malik Newman. You had great gunners on the national championship team in 2022 with Ochai Agbaji and Christian Brown and Remy Martin. We need more of that because some of the recent portal additions in recent years, like Jaden Dawson and Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr, that were brought in to be that, haven't been that consistently. And so we need a lot more of that, and probably need to add 3 or 4 in case only 2 hit, because you can never have enough shooting nowadays in college basketball.
Well, Brian, if you've got the time, we've got the time. So we will ask about the portal additions. The point guard from Toledo, and then Dawes from Utah.
Yeah, so Leroy Blyden, depending on which set of portal transfer rankings you look at is either a top 15 portal edition or he's in the top 75 at a low end. But this is the MAC freshman of the year. This is an awesome athlete with a lot of burst and, can create off the bounce. He can shoot threes at a high clip. He's a little light in terms of frame, 6'1", 170, but they like his explosiveness. And I think there were some other options that they looked at earlier in the cycle that certainly had comparable numbers, but you wondered if they had the same burst and blow by you athleticism. And I think this is one that absolutely has that. And anybody that coached him, or rather coached against him, I should say, a year ago would tell you, this kid has high major conference and long lucrative career written all over him. And I think that a couple of the articles that have been written from other coaches in the league speaking anonymously, they think this kid could be a problem in the Big 12, in a good way for Kansas, in a bad way for the rest of the league. And so, like I said, smaller, thinner, he'll add on his body, but he's got natural ball skills to create for others, create for himself, score at all three levels, can get to the cup, can step back and hit threes at 41+%, can be really effective in that regard. And then the other name I think a lot of your viewership and listener know about, and Keanu Dawes, who was a junior this past season at Utah, averaged about 12 and 8. When he came into Allen Fieldhouse, he put up 22 and 12. So that's a little more memorable in my mind based on what he did to us. Bill Self feels like he can guard all 5 positions and has athleticism at the 4 spot and plays with a physical nature that probably exceeds what they got out of freshman version Bryson Tiller. Tiller, I think, will grow into being more consistent in that regard, but Dawes is the type of guy that brings the athleticism, plays to his size, has a much more efficient rate of scoring from inside the paint, 15 feet and in, and he's a rim rocker, man. He gets after it in there. I think that's what Bill Self really wants, a couple guys that can do, and he was the first domino to fall. So pumped about them both. It's not often you sit here on April the 23rd and you could say almost half our roster is still unfilled in, but realistically, like of the big money portal additions, you'll probably add, 4 or 5 more, maybe just 4. You're not going to have 15 heavily invested scholarship players on this team, but you'd like to add a couple more starters, and those don't all have to come from the portal. Obviously, working internally, I can't talk specifics, but there's high school talent that could be added there, and some pretty prominent high school talent. And then they're still in on multiple targets to fill multiple positions in the portal. And some will say, "Oh man, it seems like all the big names are drying up fast." And yes, there's a lot of committed guys that were highly ranked, but Kansas is still in on some pretty impactful guys, no doubt. And in Bill Self, I trust, and he wouldn't have come back for this additional season if he didn't feel like he had the resources and the inside track to have a championship caliber roster. Not just Big 12 championship, where we have 63 conference titles all time, the most of any school, but he came back to win a national championship and doesn't have all the pieces in place yet to feel like, you're a preseason contender in that regard, but they feel like it's rounding into form. And by the next time I talk to you guys, hopefully we're looking at this team in a much different light. I think Lenardi had us as in his early, honestly, why do you put it out, early bracketology? Because the rosters aren't filled yet, but he needs content and ESPN's asking him to. I think he had us as a 5 seed, and the types of guys they're in on still, if they get a couple of them, this goes back to being a 1 or a 2 seed type Kansas team. Obviously, the pieces have to fit. We were preseason number 19 in the country last year, and because Darren Peterson had such a on the floor, off the floor, sporadic year in terms of availability, as you well know, things never clicked. And so, we wound up in that 4 seed line, which is probably what we deserved or slightly better. The pieces will still have to fit, to be clear. But if they add the type of guys they think they can, this can absolutely be a championship caliber Bill Self Kansas basketball team. And this, put out a 5 seed in the month of April talk will arch up pretty quickly in terms of our projection and trajectory.
Yeah, I love the way it's coming together. Voice of the Jayhawks, Brian Haney, here on Big 12 Radio and Big 12 Studios. Thanks, Brian.
Always a pleasure, guys, and thanks for the invite. Enjoy the draft tonight, Ari, and look forward to chatting with you guys. Who knows, maybe along the road to Omaha with the Omahawks.
Let's go.
Get me on again if this baseball team wins a Big 12 title, all right?
Hawks. Awesome. All right, coming up next, transfer portal updates. Is there a new leader in the Big 12 clubhouse? Before we pivot back to draft talk in about 15 minutes, this is Big 12 Radio exclusively on TuneIn.
Rivas and Bidunga jump it up, and Kansas wins the tip. Good veteran officiating crew, Kit Kissinger, Doug Sermons, and Tony Padilla.
So these two sophomores are going to have a great matchup tonight.
Tiller with Pete on him. Those two banging. Tiller, step back, jumper, got it. And one, Toby, a walk-off the feed from Koa Peace.
All right, folks. You Naismith voters, keep an eye on that kid.
Hurries and one.
He is now the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh! Kansas has never led. Under 10 to go. And number 1, Arizona.
Lob.
Bidunga inside, twisting, turning.
Council loves this spot, boy.
Shot clock winding down. Council at the basket. And it goes! His first free throw miss of the night. Karchenko. Krivas. Book it. Council grabs it, and that'll do it. Kansas has knocked off unbeaten Arizona. Number 1 goes down inside Allen Fieldhouse.
Back inside Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. Special thanks to Brian Haney, who joined us just moments ago, the voice of the Kansas Jayhawks. Transfer portal updates. Is there a new leader in the Big 12 clubhouse? Don't be distracted by the hammer that appears to be just like right above us. A little bit of building construction. It's no big deal. I don't think you can hear it through our mics, but we can hear it.
Yeah,
It'll be fine.
it's pretty loud.
Very loud. All right, so Arizona State, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. Josh Edwards is going to be with us. We'll pivot back to our draft talk here in like 9 minutes. But Arizona State, with the addition of the St. Mary's kid, who averages like 18 points a game and actually started his career at Arizona. He was recruited by Tommy Lloyd, part of that the international bloodlines that they have in Tucson. 18 points, 8 rebounds, shoots the cover off the ball. He's going to be Arizona State's best player. But Arizona State's recruiting class, I didn't realize the magnitude of how strong it was. It is currently 7th in the country by Sports Illustrated. 24/7 composite transfer portal rankings has Arizona State as the number 1 class in the Big 12, 8th in the country. They also have Cincinnati, Houston, and Baylor all in the top 21. Cincinnati is 17th. They have 9 portal commitments already. Houston is 18th in the country. Baylor is 21st. Iowa State rounds out the top 25 at number 25. But Randy Bennett, with limited funds, what he's doing with Arizona State definitely should be noted for this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, I think both Arizona State and we talked about Oklahoma State's incoming recruiting class, those are two teams that expect to take significant jumps into next season. And, you know, I mean, as we start to project what 2026, 2027 looks like for the Big 12, you know, I mean, look, Arizona and Houston are going to be there. You figure Kansas will too, and Iowa State, right? Texas Tech, like the teams at the top should remain at the top. Kansas State should be dramatically improved from being terrible to at least average, right?
Yeah, that's
and
the
then
hope.
Arizona State and Oklahoma State could take significant jumps, as Kansas State could too.
Texas Tech, this isn't official, but rumors, I guess we'll call it that. We know that they're hosting this UNLV guard, Dre Gibbs Lahorn. He averaged 21 points per game, shot 50% from the floor, came from Illinois. He only played like 11 minutes per game his freshman year, so he goes to UNLV where Josh Pastner is the head coach. They move him to point guard. There was a season-ending injury to their starting point guard. They slide him over, and in conference play, he averaged 24 points per game. He was the Mountain West Newcomer of the Year, first-team All-Conference, had a 42-point game against Nevada, scored 30 or more points 5 times. You pair him with Cruz Davis, who is also a 20-point-per-game guy at Hofstra, within Grant McCaslin's offense, where guys like Donovan Atwell was actually better at Texas Tech than he was at UNC Greensboro. A lot of these guards shine in that system. I can see why Texas Tech fans are really excited about their offseason moves.
We also learned yesterday that TCU has added Gavin Sykes, the Long Beach State guard, who averaged 19 points per game on 47% shooting. So that's a big-time addition. We've talked about what TCU's done already, and now adding Sykes to the mix is huge. Sykes was being pursued by a lot of Power 5 programs, so that's a big addition. Also, I believe I saw Terrence Brown, the former Utah guard, landed with North Carolina, which seems like the perfect marriage. And then Cincinnati lads Elijah Perryman and Travion Carson, plus Josh Holloway, Texas A&M's player, is visiting West Virginia today. So those are kind of the latest headlines on the Big 12.
Holloway would be a really nice add for West Virginia. He's a scrappy guard. He can shoot it well, gets up and down the floor. And then the kid from Long Beach State, you said, right?
Yep.
So I was in Big West country. He played in the Big West back in February, and I always love getting like a peek behind the curtain with the portal stuff. A lot of these guys are already talking to schools. Everybody's doing it. But I was told that he would be in the Big 12 next season, but at a different school. So for TCU to land him is huge this late in the cycle. Like, he was very coveted, to your point.
Yeah, 19-point-per-game scorer. And tomorrow is the deadline for the NBA draft. So the portal is now closed, so we know which players are in the portal. You know, players can now sign if they're in the portal with anybody at any point in time, but nobody else can enter the portal at this point. And tomorrow is the NBA draft deadline, April 24th. So, you know, some of these guys that have kind of declared but are also in the portal or figure out what they're going to do will make their ultimate decisions like Christian Anderson, Milan Momcilovic, even AJ DeBonsa.
Koa Pete.
Braden Burries. Did Burries already commit?
I think so.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have a lot more clarity on who's going and who's not by tomorrow. So by Friday, we'll have a really good sense of this. That is tomorrow. Friday is tomorrow. By tomorrow, we'll have a good sense of this.
What are the odds that AJ DeBonsa comes back?
No way. Especially now, like that he could very well be the number 1 overall pick. Like what
I'd put it at less than 1%.
That he's coming back?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think is the chances he's the number 1 pick?
I mean, above 50%.
Yeah, I would agree.
Right?
It's at worst 50.
Yeah. The Oklahoma State class that's now top 5 in the country is because they just picked up Latrell Almond, who's a McDonald's All-American, only the 11th in Oklahoma State history. He is their highest-rated recruit since Cade Cunningham in 2020. He chose Oklahoma State over Indiana, Tennessee, Maryland, and Virginia. And Oklahoma State had money to spend last year in the portal, but I think this year they're throwing that money at these high school kids, which worked for Arizona, worked for, Texas Tech had a lot of freshmen on their roster. BYU had a lot of freshmen, even despite all the injury issues. Like, Oklahoma State should be really excited about the kids they've got coming in.
Yeah, no. Well, look, Oklahoma State and Steve Lutz run a very specific style. So, the hope would be, a lot of times you might want to cater your style, your playing style to the players you have. In this case, you got to find the right guys that fit the type of style they play with. So that's the biggest piece. I think you got to probably have a mix of, young talent with transfers and holdovers. I think Kansas is on, potentially in that conversation with Rosario and Bia, is sort of the holdovers, and then getting this big time freshman class while adding transfers. I think that's a good mix. You probably want maybe a little bit more holdovers experience, but Oklahoma State, off the top of my head, I can't remember if they've got.
They have Clary coming back, the point guard, but that's kind of about it right now.
Yeah.
I think the KU guys, Rosario and Mbia barely got on the floor until like the last 6 games of the season and was very productive, like an impactful guy. Averaged like 4 or 5 points and 4 or 5 rebounds. Same thing with Rosario. All right, coming up next, we go back to the NFL draft. The NFL draft lead writer for CBS, Josh Edwards, will join us coming up next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. He's Ari. I'm James. Will on the controls, and Anthony behind the camera, exclusively on TuneIn and on Big 12 Studios.
Viola steps up, and he's sacked. Back in their own territory at the 47 by Golday.
Fake it to Kingston and give it instead to Hagan, and he is dropped by Golday.
At home, Golday is right here off the edge. I want you to watch Corleone in the middle. He's the one that starts the disruption. Boom, swims through, makes everybody feel chaotic, and then Golday stays home where he's supposed to be.
By Golday, a call by Cincinnati.
Jake Golday had a nice job off the edge. Dante Corleone pushing the pocket from the middle. Right there.
Bowling Green, didn't see him. Jake Golday pulverizing the quarterback.
Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio, brought to you by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. Ari Timken, James Westling with you, and we welcome in, as we pivot back to NFL Draft Talk from CBS Sports, Josh Edwards. Josh, what's up, dude?
Not too much. We're actually covering the draft from Fort Lauderdale, which sounds nice on the surface, but it is raining here, so not exactly a beautiful day to start draft day, but I'm excited. You know, we've all heard the rumors, so I'm excited to finally put those rumors to bed and make the picks tonight.
Yeah, Florida can either be the best place on earth or the worst, and you've got the back end of that today.
No question.
With that said, all right, hit us with your boldest prediction for tonight. Could be a trade, could be a guy that goes way too high, or a guy that falls. What do you have?
I think there's going to be a lot of trade movement. Already there's been some smoke, of course, that Arizona is going to move out of number 3 overall. For the longest time, the thought has been that maybe it's the Browns at number 6 overall that get out of there and, trade with the Cowboys, for example. But if Arizona moves back, let's say to number 8 overall with the Saints, then the offensive tackles could possibly go very quickly because Arizona needs offensive linemen. The Browns need offensive linemen, the Giants, the Rams. There's a ton of teams there. So I think we may see a very early run on the offensive tackle position if Arizona trades out of number 3 overall. As far as somebody sliding, I don't know how much of a surprise it is at this point because it's been pretty well documented, but there's concerns over Jermod McCoy's knee, the cornerback out of Tennessee, and there's a possibility that he, could be available as we enter Friday night. As somebody that could benefit from that, there's a couple of names, Colton Hood, who is his teammate at Tennessee, as well as Chris Johnson from San Diego State, a couple of cornerbacks that if there are concerns over McCoy's knee and he falls a little bit farther than anticipated, those are 2 players that I think we may see in the first round who have not regularly been projected there.
Great stuff. Curious for your thoughts on some of the most underrated prospects in this draft.
So one of my favorites throughout this process has been Nick Barrett. He's a defensive lineman from South Carolina. He's not necessarily this flashy player. He's somebody that holds up well at the point of attack. I just think that if we look back in 10 years and he was still playing, that would not surprise me at all. Most of my favorites in this class, I think, have been on the defensive side of the ball. Hezekiah Massis from Cal is a cornerback that I really like. There's a lot of linebackers. Bryce Betcher from Oregon is somebody that has that like old school aesthetic, the high neck roll, flies around the football field, incredibly fun to watch. And then I'll say R. Mason Thomas, the edge rusher from Oklahoma. He's been a pleasure to watch throughout this process as well. High energy type guy, just going to go after the passer, move him off his spot. Somebody that can impact the game in that way. So those are some of the guys I've been drawn to at this point.
Who are the teams that you're hearing the most? I think you mentioned Arizona, you mentioned Cleveland. Outside of that, in terms of being teams maybe looking to trade back or to trade up?
So Seattle is the first one that comes to mind. They're sitting at number 2 overall, of course, the Super Bowl champions. They only have 4 picks in this year's draft. Ideally, they would move out of that pick. I mean, it's no surprise. John Schneider has always done that in his career, but he's also just flat out said that he would like to move back in this draft if that becomes possible. So that would be a team I look for as we get closer to the end of Thursday night. The Rams are a team that I would not be surprised if they moved up for the right target. Let's say one of those wide receivers is somebody that they've really keyed in on and want to secure that player. I could see them being aggressive because that's just in their nature. The Eagles are another team that are historically very aggressive, moving around the board to get players that they covet. So I could see them trying to get up the board for one of these offensive tackles as well. It's been well documented that Lane Johnson is at least considering retirement. He decided to play this year, but I think it's on the table for after this season and moving forward. So I could see them targeting his replacement. But I think there's going to be a lot of those small measure moves, a couple picks here, a couple picks there, just leapfrogging a team to maybe secure a player that a team has their eyes on because I do think the board, in terms of how these prospects are stacked, is going to vary widely from team to team. So one team is going to value a player, higher than another team, and I think that's where we'll see a lot of those trades happen.
What's really interesting to me is the Big 12 lens, and we hit the number for Big 12 players taken in the first round. We thought 5.5, the over/under on that would be interesting. You've got 3 locks in Bailey, Infano, and Tyson. And then I think there's 5 other players that could hear their names called in the first round, which would be Malachi Lawrence, Jacob Rodriguez, Caleb Lomu, Max Ihanachor, and who's the last guy I'm missing here?
Did you say Stooks? And
Tredan Stooks.
Oh, yeah.
So out of that last 5 grouping there, who of those guys do you think ends up in the first round?
Easily for me, it's those 2 offensive tackles. It would be Caleb Lomu and Maxi Hanachor. Again, going back to kind of the first part of this conversation, if that offensive tackle run happens early, then Lomu could go higher than we expect. Ihanachor could go higher than we expect. And I've been a big fan of Ihanachor throughout this process. One of the talking points that you kind of hear in media is that he's maybe not technically refined. And I think that's a misconception. He's new to the game, yes, but I also don't think that he is that far behind the 8 ball in terms of, his technical, current technical position. I think he's very well versed in that regard. So I don't think the, transition to the NFL is as steep as maybe some people are projecting. And he's got that requisite play strength. He's got great size. He has upside because, he is relatively new to the game. So he's somebody that I think a lot of teams are going to really covet there in the back half of the first round. And I feel pretty confident that he's going to go somewhere.
Talking with Josh Edwards, NFL draft writer for CBS Sports and CBSSports.com. I've seen Jordan Tyson now as high as maybe number 5 to the Giants. Where do you think he lands?
It's kind of water finding its level. He's been wide receiver 1 for me throughout this process. And, that was strictly because you see his capability when the ball is in his hands. He's very dynamic, elusive. He can, make plays above the rim, but at the same time, he had he's got all those health concerns, the injury history. So I think teams have become more comfortable with that. I still think there's probably a wide range of where he could be taken, anywhere from 5 to, let's say, 16 to the Jets, I think is probably that range. I'd be surprised if he were available beyond that point. But some teams are going to prefer Carnell Tate. It's just, they're more risk averse in terms of the injury history. And, they need somebody that's going to be able to step in right away. You don't have to worry about his durability. Whereas Tyson, I think you're just taking a chance on that upside, and teams that, maybe like the Rams and the Chiefs, who do not often find themselves in this position to pick this early, have a rare opportunity to potentially get a guy that could be your number 1 wide receiver. So I do think that he's going to go early, somewhere in the top half of the first round. It's just kind of difficult to weed through the rumors and try to figure out what's true and what's just a smokescreen.
Yeah, well said. Curious for your thoughts on the biggest surprise in the top 10 tonight. Will it be a trade?
I'm trying to remove myself from it as far as what would be a surprise, because I've just been so absorbed in it all for a few days now. I'm trying to think of what would actually be. I would say, because Tyson, I think getting in the top 10 wouldn't be a surprise anymore. I think that's been out there long enough that people would understand that. I would say that a team getting into the top 10 would probably be the most surprising. I would throw the Jets out there as, they've already got the number 2 overall pick, but they have the number 16 overall pick as well. There's maybe 12 first-round players in this year's draft, those blue-chip type players. So if you're the Jets and you're just sitting outside that range and you have all of these draft assets, why not go up and get another player that you really like? So I could see them possibly making that leap into the top 10 overall. The Eagles are aggressive, as I talked about earlier, but I think that's probably a little bit too rich for them. So as far as the teams that we haven't talked about, I'd I'd maybe have the Jets on alert as far as who can move up.
Josh, can you just kind of put into perspective, you retweeted a colleague of yours and how many current players are rostered on NFL rosters, the number of draft picks, and then the massive number of undrafted free agents that these teams sign. And so guys from the Big 12 that maybe don't get drafted could still have a chance to make an NFL roster. Just like seeing this on paper, to me, it's shocking how many, estimated undrafted free agents these teams will actually bring in.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a frenzy right after the draft is over. Agents are having conversations with NFL teams as the draft is going on, and teams are having those conversations because they're trying to gauge who is, which teams are speaking to which prospects. Is this a player that I need to take here in the 7th round, or can I wait and try to get him under contract once the draft is over? So there's a lot of that gamesmanship that's taking place as we get into late day 3. But it's a large number of undrafted free agents. I mean, there's teams that will take more than 20 undrafted free agents from this draft class. And, I think it speaks to the depth of this year's class specifically. I think, as much as we talk about there not being a high volume of those blue chip, all pro caliber players at the top of this draft, I do believe that this is a deep draft, in which case, you can find starters into day 3. You can find contributors, whether it's depth or special teams, well into day 3. And there's going to be probably a couple of undrafted free agents that come out of that group as well. So as teams are constructing their rosters, we've kind of seen some teams, Cincinnati, of course, most recently, they have all of these high dollar contracts now with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Dexter Lawrence and Joe Burrow. And then to counteract that, you have to have some cheaper contracts as well. So if you're trying to fill out your roster, those undrafted free agents that are making very little money relative to a veteran making the minimum is a way for you to kind of counteract that on your roster, those big contracts. So it's all about how each individual team wants to manage their roster, but there's going to be a lot of guys that do not hear their names called over the next 3 days that still have an opportunity to make it in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. Very well said. Josh Edwards from CBS Sports covers the NFL and the NFL draft. Appreciate your time, Josh. Great insight. Love your latest tweet, a full breakdown of approximately what time each pick will occur tonight, which is very helpful for my brain. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you for having me.
Josh Edwards, CBS Sports, covers the NFL, NFL draft writer here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We touched on this next topic a little bit earlier in the program, but Brendan Sorsby's path, bless you, to Texas Tech is really fascinating stuff. So let's break it down after this timeout. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn.
Here comes the TCU pressure. Deal picked off. That will do it. Nandy Obi-Izor seals the rivalry win for the Horned Frogs.
And first and goal, 8 seconds to go. That's knocked up. That's picked off. Obi-Izor takes it away for TCU. And they stand at the goal line as the half expires.
Earl under pressure. Sack wrapped up and brought down. Andy Obi-Izor, the sack for TCU.
That was Bain, right? That was Bain. Tonight's theme. Oh, big hit. Obi-Izor in the backfield.
Lift him up, form tackle, throw him down. My God. That is a tackle if I've ever seen one. Boom. Good Lord.
Side of Lopez.
This defense, you keep detained, not fooled at all. Finish at the end of the year where no one feels like you have anything to play for.
What do you have inside of you? Is Pryor on the run, taken outside. Obi-Izor spun him down.
If he can correct on a 3rd and 11. He steps up, in some trouble, and he's swung down. Obi-Izor with the sack.
back here on Big 12 today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. You are watching us on Big 12 Studios alongside Ari Timken. I'm James Westling, producer Will on the audio side, producer Taman on the video side. I just looked at 2027. Did I say producer Taman?
You did. You did.
Producer Anthony on the video side.
And producer Will on the audio side.
I got the Will part right. It was the Anthony flub. Apologies, Anthony.
Got it. I wasn't paying as much attention.
What did I say after that? Oh, 2027 NFL draft. I don't see any Big 12 guys like expected to be. There will be Big 12 players taken in the first round, but they're way too early, like prospect rankings don't really have any Big 12 players in the top 20 or 30. But Brendan Sorsby is a top 7 quarterback, according to CBS, Walter Football, NFLDraft.net. All these different platforms have him as a top 7 guy, which is probably what he would have been this year. But ultimately, he comes back to college. He was recruited by a whole plethora of programs, and this is from CBS Sports and what Chris Hummer put together, and we touched on this earlier. There's a big piece on Brendan Sorsby's path to Texas Tech. I think for me, like, the number one headline is that he's a great example of a guy who is making more money playing 1 year at Texas Tech than he would in the NFL if he was drafted in the 3rd round, the 4th round, the 5th round. Shedeur Sanders' 4-year NFL contract, he was taken in the 5th round. It's like $4.6 million. Brendan Sorsby's making $5 million to play 1 season of football at Texas Tech. That part to me is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, the piece from Chris Hummer does a really good job in sort of, outlining the Brendan Sorsby recruitment. It appears based on Hummer's reporting that Sorsby was the most sought-after quarterback in the portal. Indiana, LSU, Miami, and Texas Tech were all in on him. Mm-hmm. Indiana, I think figured earlier that they were out, and they transitioned and pivoted to Josh Hoover. According to Chris Hummer, LSU was in it, and at one point, Texas Tech, and as we heard from Chris Level, probably sent out some smoke screens, from a leverage play that they were interested in other quarterbacks, but they really never wavered in interest at all from Sorsby. And I had heard the same thing about Sam Leavitt, because initially my first thought was, Leavitt is going to go to Texas Tech. But there was never any interest in Leavitt from Texas Tech. Take that however you want. But the big thing I think from this piece from Hummer is, that the price tag was $5 million. I think the original figure was somewhere about 3.5. But honestly, that feels low. Again, given it's the most important position in football, and he's the most sought-after guy in the portal. So you've got LSU and Indiana, and big money teams chasing him. And Texas Tech wins out in the bidding war, which says a lot about the state of Texas Tech's program and, a lot about the future trajectory of the Big 12. Right now it feels like the trajectory of the Big 12 is on the upswing. And I think there's a lot of ways you could look at it. There's certainly some ways that, we'll see the draft numbers overall, and I'm sure the numbers will pale in comparison to maybe the SEC and the SEC and the ACC and the Big 10. But I feel like there's just a creep up. And the Big 12 had to make up for the loss of such significant brands in terms of driving the bus for football and the draft picks that, like, what they're doing relative to those losses is huge, in my opinion.
And the number of picks in last year's NFL draft, the SEC had 79, the Big 10 had 71, the ACC had 42, the Big 12 had 31. Well, if the Big 12 has potentially 6 guys getting drafted in the first round, I would expect the Big 12 to be better than the 31 picks that there were last year. Like, that number should be higher. And if it is, that's growth. And I think at this point, you can only ask for growth. So this Sorsby piece kind of put into perspective, to your point, the trajectory of the conference. Just one more example, when he's the most sought-after quarterback on the market. LSU, Lane Kiffin identified him as the top passer in the portal. Texas Tech, Chris Level told us very point blank that they didn't have any interest in Sam Leavitt, the former Arizona State quarterback who ultimately lands at LSU. Miami goes with Darian Mensah, but he wasn't their first pick. Like, Brendan Sorsby is the dude when it comes to this portal cycle. And so maybe I'm sitting here thinking maybe I've undervalued how good he was at Cincinnati and what the NFL scouts are saying, because Texas Tech leans into what the scouts are saying. They love that he was born and raised in the state of Texas. It's just the perfect fit.
Yeah, and look, I mean, if everything goes as planned for Texas Tech, he's going to be a first-round pick next year. So, he might not be expected to be this year. I think that's multifaceted. I think the 2027 quarterback class is going to be significantly better, and I think from a preseason standpoint, there are a lot of names that maybe stand out more so than Sorsby. But the reality is Texas Tech's paying him $5 million to go further than they got. They felt like, their defense was record-setting, and it was, but their offense, while good during the regular season, elite during the regular season, didn't prove to be that elite when it came to postseason play, specifically, obviously, in the Orange Bowl. And so that's their goal now. And that's why they pay Sorsby $5 million. Now, again, we've talked about it. Their defense is not going to be as good. You lose a guy like David Bailey, and even as Chris Level told us, you're not replacing that. Now, they've got a bunch of good players coming in on defense. Their defense should be good. Will it be historic and all-time great? Probably not, but their offense should be better, and that should allow them to be in a better position to win more games and obviously compete deeper into the postseason, which if they do, Sorsby will assuredly be a first-round pick.
Yeah, where was Fernando Mendoza back in August on NFL draft boards?
Certainly wasn't number one overall.
No.
I think a lot of people felt like Arch Manning was poised to have a really big year and that he'd be the number one overall pick.
There can be so much movement within the season. I just went back and found a CBS piece from back in August. The number one quarterback for 2027, which would be next year, they're looking ahead. The number one quarterback was DJ Lagway. That's not the case now because of the season he just had at Florida. There can be a ton of movement. Now, Lagway's a guy that's going to get drafted, but unless he just has a Sawyer Robertson type year, he's not going to be a first-round pick.
Right.
And Baylor would have to win a lot more football games. But with Sorsby, it's like he gets the best of both worlds. Wins a bunch of football games, massive payday at $5 million or whatever the official number is. Chris Hummer's reporting that it's $5 million, and then improves his draft stock because the team is winning football games, more games on national television, more tape against high-level opponents. So for him, it checks all the boxes.
Starting next week, we're going to do a football series, taking a look at the top 5 players at each position. We did earlier this offseason top 5 newcomers at each position. Now we're going to do top 5 at each position. The quarterback one's going to be very, very, very interesting. Where is Drew Mestemaker on that list? Is Drew Mestemaker the type of guy that if he has a big year this year, which a lot of people expect, does he find himself as a potential first-round pick? I have really high hopes for Cutter Boley at Arizona State, given Kenny Dillingham's reputation and experience with the quarterback position. So, could this be a big year for Julian Lewis, another highly recruited, highly touted player? DJ Lagway, as you mentioned. So, preseason-wise, there are a lot of question marks at all these guys. But again, I said this earlier, and I maintain it. The quarterback position is going to be dramatically improved year over year within the Big 12. It was really good 2 years ago. It was not as good this past year. Again, only 1,000-yard receiver in the Big 12 last year was Eric McAllister. Amari Thomas was second at 966. Right? So what about Connor Wigman? Is he going to be in that top 5?
Devin Dampier, Bear Bachmeier, Avery Johnson, all guys that...
Very intriguing quarterbacks.
Yes.
A lot of think about Julian Lewis, Avery Johnson, DJ Lagway. These were all very highly recruited 4 or 5-star kids. Am I missing anybody?
No, in terms of guys that were
4 and 5 stars, yeah.
Yeah, so
Mestemaker wasn't, obviously. Sorsby wasn't.
Bear Bachmeier was a 4-star.
Was he?
Yeah, he rocketed late. He was 119 overall. So
Jalen Rayner was a 4-star?
Jalen Rayner?
Yeah.
Was he? The kid I was thinking of.
By the way, we haven't even mentioned the best quarterback in the Big 12 heading into the season.
And?
Noah Fifita.
How did we forget him? First team All Big 12 quarterback. Michael Hawkins at West Virginia, 4-star kid out of high school. So this past season, would you say it was a down year in terms of the quarterback position for the Big 12? Maybe that's not
Yes.
the right phrasing.
Yes,
but
it was a down year. Yeah. Who was the number 1 passer for the Big 12? Sawyer Robertson?
Yeah.
Sawyer's fine.
Your first-team quarterback was Fifita.
Yeah.
Next year, and even I saw that same 2027 quarterback piece from back in August. Again, this is before the season. They're looking way ahead. Had Avery Johnson as a top 7 quarterback for NFL draft rankings, which is crazy to think after the season he just had. But again, like 5-star kid out of high school, top 7 quarterback in his class. He is the only quarterback from his class that is still at the school that he signed with. And then what does Devin Dampier look like in year 2? Wegman and Henderson, that combo at Houston. I'm with you. I think there's something behind this year being a bounce-back year, if you will, for that position. Even Jaden Craig at TCU. Excited to see how he fits in molds.
Yeah. No, it'll be very interesting. And then it's this mix of, like, guys that have outperformed lower expectations. Jaden Craig, Drew Mestemaker, the kid for UCF who transfers in from James Madison.
Yeah.
And then a mix, again, of 4- and 5-star kids that were very highly recruited, like Julian Lewis and DJ Lagway. And, Keyshawn Henderson is potentially the mix. Connor Wigman it's a name we didn't talk about. He was one of the top-rated recruits.
Oh, yeah, he was a 5-star kid out of high school, signed with Texas A&M. All right, so if you were doing your quarterback rankings right now on the spot, would you have Sorsby number 1?
No. Within my top 5, I haven't figured out the order yet. Probably something along the lines of Mestemaker, Sorsby, Fafita. With, in the mix would be Cutter Boley, Julian Lewis, Jaden Craig. Those 6. Who am I missing?
Bear
Bachmeier.
Didn't hear Bear. Did I hear Dampier? Did I hear Avery Johnson?
No, Dampier Johnson, no. It's a new offense. I wasn't that impressed with Dampier last year. They don't have the same linemen. I don't know.
I'm worried about Utah this year.
I think they could have a great ground game with Dampier. I just don't know in terms of the passing. If we're looking at the quarterback numbers, Bear Bachmeier is definitely a miss on me. He should probably be on that list. So I've got 7 guys for 5 spots.
I like it. It's deep. It's a deeper league.
And Avery Johnson, I think he's got the potential, but like I'm going to wait and see with him.
Can Colin Klein unlock him at K-State? That's what it feels like with Avery. He hasn't been unlocked.
What about yours? Put me on the spot.
Yeah, I probably lean Mestemaker. I mean, he's going to have PlayStation-type numbers. He has an NFL-ready arm, body, all the things. Like, it wasn't a gimmick what he did last season at North Texas. Eric Morris is a quarterback guru. He's worked with, Mahomes and Mayfield and
it's a ridiculous list.
Ward.
Yeah.
Like, if he can take Cam Ward from 0-star recruit at Incarnate Word to the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, I expect Mestemaker to be even better at Oklahoma State than he was at North Texas. Now, Oklahoma State might give up 50 points a game, but passing the football won't be a problem. So I'd probably lean there. John Rothstein, by the way, is reporting that UNLV transfer Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn tells him that he is committed to Texas Tech. Top scorer in the Mountain West, averaged 21 points per game this past season. So we touched on the transfer portal updates with basketball. Texas Tech lands another 20-point-per-game guard to pair with the Cruz Davis from Hofstra. That backcourt all of a sudden is looking really nice down in Lubbock, over in Lubbock.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously that should have been the expectation, even without knowing the names, that you knew that this team was going to be really good. They reload every year. And I think what I love most about Grant McCasland as a coach is his ability to adopt what he's trying to do to the players that he has. This is a constant evolution and adaptation in terms of their style and the way they're playing.
Coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, it is the final whistle. A whole grab bag of topics. He's Ari, I'm James. This is Big 12 Radio. You're watching us on Big 12 Studios and listening exclusively on TuneIn. Back here on Big 12 today. Big 12 Radio, powered by Modelo. He's Ari Timken on social at RE Sports. That's ARI Sports. I'm James Westling on social at James Westling. Modelo Fan Rule number 74. You've Googled draft order tiebreakers with dread. Tonight is the night. The draft order is set. There will be trades galore. Apparently my Kansas City Chiefs are being rumored to be one of the teams in discussions to move up from number 9. If you're picking at number 9 and you're trying to move up, you have somebody very specific that you're targeting. No idea who that could be, but excited about what the Chiefs might do. Jordan Tyson could go as high as number 5 to the Giants. The rumors are aplenty for the NFL draft. Cannot wait.
And over under 5.5 is the number with the Big 12. We know that there are 3 guys that are locks as first-round picks in Tyson, Fano, and
Bailey.
Bailey, thank you, the highest one. Then there's 5 more that we've identified that could potentially be first-round picks. I think there's a very low percentage chance all 5 are to get to 8, but a mix of Malachi Lawrence, Max Ahanachor, Caleb Lomu, Jacob Rodriguez, and Tre'Davious Stukes. We'll see if any of those guys come off the board. We said the number at 5.5. You took the under?
No, I think
6 is the number.
I think that's the number 2. Yeah.
Of those 5, I think they can get 3 of those 5 into the first round.
What if we get 4 of those 5? Hit 7 in the first round. That'd be a major talking point for us tomorrow.
Well, it feels like there's a lot of momentum for Stukes. Lomu is one that surprises me as a guy that it felt like he's been a first-round pick the entire way, and then Ahanachor too. I'd be surprised if he fell out of the first round. Those 2, it feels like, should be locks, but at least in the latest reporting, aren't. And again, I think like there's such a discrepancy between where a lot of these draft analysts have guys slotted versus where NFL teams may. So maybe we come back here tomorrow and we're like, wow, there's 9 guys off the board in the first round for the Big 12.
Right. And hopefully it doesn't swing the other way and there's like 4. That would be bad. Now, I think as you sit and you watch the draft tonight and the more offensive tackles that are taken in the first 5 to 10 picks, the better for the Big 12 because that panic meter starts setting in and teams start drafting tackles left and right, and that's how a Max Ahanachor slides up maybe as high as like into the 20s. That's how Lomu gets drafted in the first round, which would be really good for the Big 12. Ahanachor is like my number 1 dude. Like the more we deep dive all of these prospects, just his story and how much weight he added and still has the balance and footwork, incredibly raw, didn't allow any sacks, just an absolute beast at tackle.
Well, and again, when you look at the tape for Arizona State versus Texas Tech and Utah versus Texas Tech, it felt like Ahanachor did a much better job against NFL-level pass rushers in height and Bailey than Lomu did. Lomu is more lean and athletic. Utah got him out in space a lot for a tackle. Normally you pull guards, but if tackles get out in space and pull, I mean that's a big addition. So I just feel like at his size, his athleticism, I get that. But Ahanachor is just he's a beast. Like Lomu is a little bit light, whereas Ahanachor's got the perfect size. He's just raw, but you expect that for a guy that's only played football for 5 years. So like the growth he's shown in 5 years shows me this is a guy that could be like an all-pro type tackle. I also think like a lot of these guys project either right or left. Like Lomu's left tackle, which is fine. Ahanachor's played right. I think he can play left. I don't. Some of these guys are locked in on one side of the ball. I think the versatility for a guy that you could line him up at left or right tackle is big.
All right, what's the difference between playing right and left tackle?
Well, so it's are you right or left-handed? Are you right or left-footed? Right. So you're immediately either starting left or right. I think that. So just like you're flopping over. You'd have to talk to these guys and kind of they'd probably tell you some of the more nuances of that. Left tackle is more important because most quarterbacks are right-handed, and so you're protecting the backside of the quarterback.
That's
coming
the blind
from that.
side.
Right. Now, if you've got a left-handed quarterback, it's right tackle. But look, those are 2 premium positions, and if you're a team that needs either or, I think you need to go tackle here. And if you're a team that needs a left tackle, you want to be – it almost feels like players that are left tackles can be right tackles more often than right tackles can be left tackles. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's easier, I think, for left tackles to switch to right than it would be for right tackles to switch left. Some guys can do it, but it's easier. And then you talk to these guys that do it, and they'll tell you where they're more comfortable, one, and two, why they're more comfortable.
Great insight. I was looking to see the left-handed right hand, because that's fascinating to me and something I've never thought about. And you're spot on. Absolute chaos in the latest sleeper NFL mock draft. I'm just looking at NFL draft rumors. They have Jordan Tyson going in the top 5. Like, I'm seeing more mock drafts now that have Jordan Tyson 5th to the Giants than him getting drafted any other spot. There is major smoke with the Giants. They love Jordan Tyson.
Cam Scadaboo in that draft room?
Now it makes sense.
Scadaboo's like, go get my boy.
Now it makes sense.
You're looking at a big three of Jackson Dart, Jordan Tyson, and and Cam Scadaboo next year. Look out for the Giants.
Dude, I'm here for that.
Dart just needs to not run as much and stay healthy.
That would be exciting. I like it. How are you feeling?
Good, thank you. How are you feeling?
Just how are you feeling? You've got the sniffles. I hear you. I see you.
Sniffles? My 5-year-old has the sniffles. I don't have a 5-year-old, but if I did, he'd have the sniffles.
You're sniffling.
I have a
can
stuffy
tell
nose.
You're a little bit under the weather.
A little bit, yeah.
It's not fun, man. This time of year.
Is there any time of year that's not?
Oh, I
feel like that's just like a throwaway line.
This
time of year, I tell you, the sickness, it's all over the place.
This time of year, my allergies are a mess this time of year. It's cold outside, and so that's why I'm getting sick. I know you've debunked that myth many, many times. All right, Anthony Smith helped me out with a little assist this morning. If
you
you're
sure it isn't Taven Turner?
What?
Didn't you call him Taven?
I called him Taman a few minutes ago. We had Taman on the brain. We were talking about T-Chains during the break.
You're right. Okay, my bad.
All right. Anthony Smith helped me out this morning because I sent him a picture that I was super excited to share with you. If you're watching us on Big 12 Studios, you'll see it, but we can also talk about it here on the radio side. This is ChatGPT Images 2.0. Okay. ChatGPT just came out with their new image software, an upgrade. You can make amazing things. And so I'm seeing all these images on social media. I made this poster of Texas Tech athletes and BYU quarterback Bear Bachmeier in 2.5 seconds.
Okay.
It is the end of graphic design as we know it, because this thing is churning out these hype posters that you see all over social media. All these transfer portal announcements are now using it. One prompt, bam, there's my poster. Look at that bad boy.
Yeah, LBK.
Look at it.
Not LFK, Lawrence Bleep in Kansas. Lubbock. It's cool.
Lubbock.
It's amazing. Look, I don't want to diminish the incredible artwork that many graphic designers are responsible for. I'm sure
I know.
If we had a seasoned graphic, somebody that knows it.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a good thing.
I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying, I wonder if we had an actual graphic designer with great graphic eye, if they could point out some things. I know in some contexts, AI recreates the person, and I've seen some, professional social media, professional teams or college teams use social media graphics that include the AI version of that player, and it looks horrible and it's obvious and it looks bad. So as long as it's actual graphics of the player and not an AI version of that player. But yeah, it's here.
Anthony,
the robots are here.
Anthony, pull that up one more time. I want to see if Ari can spot what you spotted. Okay, where is Waldo? ChatGPT Images 2.0 edition.
Right. So I was gonna say Anthony's he's a graphic designer, right? He does way more than that, but he would be able to spot.
He noticed it in 3 seconds.
I don't have that eye. I mean, even you got us into a tighter shot.
What do we got going on here? What's the problem? What's the number one thing that has gone horribly wrong for this image that I didn't see at all?
So I mean, the number one thing that stands out is Bear Bachmeier, the bottom one, where instead of the football, what's he holding?
Nothing. Thin air.
Yeah,
that's it.
I'm also I having not spent very much time in Provo, Utah. Are those real images of spots in Provo? Is that a castle that they have in Provo behind? They could, and maybe that's what that is. I don't know. And then in Lubbock, again, haven't spent a ton of time in Lubbock. Is that a real Lubbock building on the left?
Yeah, I've seen that building. I think that one exists in Lubbock. That's on campus, right there across from the basketball arena. Looks really good. Couldn't tell you about the Castle in Provo, but Bear Bachmeier's definitely missing a hand. That seems pretty important. We're going to be churning these out. Having hands is a good thing.
Hands, yeah. Football, absolutely. Yeah,
For
those
athletes.
are key.
You want your quarterback to have a right hand.
And it's probably the reason you still need to employ graphic designers, because not only do you need somebody to then add, if you let's just say you use ChatGPT or AI to create that image, you then want somebody that's a graphic designer to then put a football in their hand and make the hand look real. But then also you need somebody from an eye perspective to point out where things look horribly wrong and then adjust those. So, again, it's like most things where it's no, it's not going to be all AI. I think there's certain things that could be, but for the most part, there will be needs for humans to sort of intervene in certain situations. And I think graphic designer is one of them.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, it's a Three Things Thursday. One more thing here on the final whistle is.
By the way, Anthony's the best. Anthony Smith, nobody knows him that listens to the show or watches the show because he doesn't talk, because he doesn't have a microphone to talk. But he does so much for the show and is incredibly impactful. And for my money, as long as we've done this show on video, I don't think Anthony has missed a show.
I don't think he's missed a single show.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
I mean, he's the Cal Ripken of the show. Dude doesn't miss.
That is insane.
He's there on all the remotes, too. Yeah, he's working everything.
Mr. Reliable. He's not missed a single. It's just hitting me.
It's
that this
beyond
man has
reliable
not
at this
missed
point.
A single show in 2 years.
I would say you and I are reliable. We take time off.
Yeah.
So, are we not reliable? Reliable is not even the right word for it.
Iron Man. He's
Iron Man. Yes, he's Ted Williams and Cal Ripken.
He is unbreakable.
Doesn't miss shows. We're gonna jinx him now. He's gonna be like, yeah. By the way, I'm taking 2 weeks off. It's well deserved if you do, Anthony.
Totally should. Producer Will, who's been filling in the last couple of days, turns 28 tomorrow. Big plans, Will?
Just hang out. That's a big plan for me.
Will has the most fascinating sense of humor of anybody I've ever interacted with in my life.
First of all, he's a giant. He's a big man with a huge voice. He's a former college baseball player. He's 28, so you know he's stupid because he's so young. What advice would you have for somebody turning 28?
Oh, man.
As a seasoned
old
man yourself, you're 41.
Such as myself, thank you for sharing that. Let's not bury the lead there.
I mean, I'm a lot younger than you, so.
So much younger.
So
at least 6 months.
Yeah, 6 months exactly.
So, Will,
I'm still 40.
I don't even know if this is advice. I would just say that I don't think you realize how young you truly are. I can think about all the things that have happened in my life in the last 13 years. And it's like, Will, man, you basically, you have been born right before our eyes.
My advice to you is don't.
Period. After that, just don't.
Okay.
Don't.
I know we're embracing silence.
Yeah.
Don't. Fill in the blank. Thinking about something, don't. Want to do something, don't.
Don't. What? That's great advice right there.
Just don't do it.
No, I'm just kidding. Do the opposite. Do it. Do it. Anything. Just do it. The other thing is it feels like your 20s are for fun. You just have a lot of fun. 30s where you really it feels like grow up.
I had no fun in my 20s.
Well, a lot of people have fun in their 20s.
Go ahead.
Ideally, you have fun in your 20s. James never had fun. James, you still don't have fun. At no point in your life have you had fun. You go to bed at 10 o'clock. You never go out. You don't like to have fun.
Different people use different things for fun. I have a ton of fun.
That's a great point. You do have a ton of fun.
We got a big day. It's a Thursday.
You have a ton of fun. I'm going to the Rangers game tonight. I will be out past 10 o'clock. You wouldn't make it.
How are you? You're going to the Rangers? You're under the weather.
Yeah. A lot of things working against me. I'm also going camping this weekend, so haven't got much sleep this week. I've been up all night most of these nights.
Up all night?
Yeah, I'm not in good position here. Probably gonna drink some Modelo's tonight. That's
amazing.
Yeah.
You're breaking down before our eyes.
He's prepping for the
He's
show.
not in no sleep. He's not feeling well. He's going to a
back
Rangers
to Will at his 28.
camping this weekend. My new piece of advice, Will, is to never take advice from this guy. Just don't do that, and you'll be fine. Anything he tells you, just
I respect.
Just do the opposite of it.
do the opposite.
Okay.
But
I
your
like
20s,
being up all night.
your 20s are for your fun. Your 30s, it feels like that's where you're more established in your career. Most people are. You've got friends. You start to have kids. The 40s. Now I'm only 40, and you're obviously much older at 41. But it's you're in this weird spot where you're like, some people consider you really old, and some people consider you really young. Still, so it's like, Sydney was in with us on Tuesday. I co-host Across the Conference with her. She's 25. She calls me an old geezer. Like, for a 25-year-old, we're very old.
Yeah.
But for like a 50-year-old, we're very young. So it's a weird spot.
What is the happiest?
You're asking AI? You're asking a robot?
Your life.
To define happiness here?
This isn't.
You're asking somebody that just sits there and takes clues from you?
This is my research tool.
Yeah.
All right?
AI doesn't know what happiness is because it's just programmed to not do anything that makes it happy.
No, it's going to scrape the web. I only use the AIs that scrape the web. Ones that just make them up, like that's... It won't give me an answer. I don't know what I've done here. My settings are all off. But I'll tell you tomorrow morning.
What was your prompt?
Pretty sure, what is the happiest decade of your life?
Yeah, well, you asked...
And then it started peppering me with questions.
Your life...
Are you going through something?
Yeah, it's saying, I don't have a life. I'm an AI. You've asked me what the happiest decade of my life is.
I should have reworded it. You're right. The happiest decade of life is often in the 70s?
Wow, take that, 70-year-olds.
Or are they talking about 1970s?
No, I think 70s makes sense. You got grandkids. You don't have kids. You're
retired. Fishing all the time.
You're not, like, in most cases, completely debilitated, so you can usually move and have great brain function.
Man, that does sound pretty nice. Apparently, age and life satisfaction plummets in your 40s.
I mean, you're basically in your 70s right now.
Right, which I'm very happy.
The only thing is you work. That's it. Everything else, it's like, doesn't go out and stay in, loves great deals.
It's amazing. Early dinners. Eating dinner at 4 or 5 o'clock.
Your 70s are basically be exactly what they are now, except you're not going to be working.
Which is fantastic for my brain. That all sounds very nice. Well, happy birthday, Will, if we don't see you tomorrow. He's Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. We will have a full first-round NFL draft recap on tomorrow's program. Where did all these Big 12 players land in tonight's first round?
6.
And how many got selected? So that's coming up. For Anthony, for Will, for Ari, I'm James. You've been listening to us on TuneIn. This is Big 12 Radio and watching us on Big 12 Studios, powered by Modelo.